Good morning. There you are. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. All right. There, Baylor, is everything working today?
Yes, and I knew it was going out. But I thought, oh, it'll just go out for a little bit, but it was out till 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. all day.
Oh my goodness. That's a long one, and right in the middle of when you need to do everything.
Oh, I'm taking other classes, so I had other stuff to do. I was running to cafes, but it didn't work. Anyway, sorry. And I watched part of your YouTube and video, and I saw it's going to be up till this fall. So that's great. So I'm going to watch it next week, if that's okay.
No problem.
Okay.
Aloha, Harry.
Aloha.
Hi, Monica. Hi, Al.
Hey.
Hello, Vera and Saul. Welcome, welcome, everyone. All right. Yeah, there was a lot of outages and Cox being bad and power being out yesterday. I was like, okay, what's up with the day? All right, so here we go. Oh, good morning, Mason.
Good morning.
All right, so today we're going to, well, first of all, let me show you guys the Padlet. Vera has been posting a lot of updates on things she's been working on, and I love it that you go across the gamut. Mason, everyone's been posting. Well, you guys, a lot of you posted your flowers, and a few of you made the pimply guy a little bit more unpimply. But I appreciate you having comments or writing things. I don't know if you make me laugh sometimes, but anyway, I also wanted to say that Harry posted this photo of a real desert, the real photo in the desert versus this one, which I believe is someone putting two things together. So I was wondering, have you done any retouching on this one? Because I know you posted it, you said you didn't touch the sky, which gave me a thought to show you something about that. But did you do any work with this, or?
Well, the two ladies, another photos I put in here.
Oh, they come from a different photo.
Yeah.
So
But
then,
it's the same day.
okay,
But
that
the
is
two
cool.
Oldie.
So then what part is a different photo? Because what I mean, the steps look like they are
Yeah,
real.
they do. But
And then you put this, so is this like the sand dune from a photo and the background from another photo? Is that what you
Yeah.
did? All right.
there's the most famous sand dune, the Death Valley.
Okay, the Mesquite Dune. Yeah, the Mesquite
Yeah.
Flat Dunes. We've been there. I have some of the cutest photos. I have my kids running down the dunes. Really cute. But, reminds me of how they were many years ago when they were little. And they were so into running up and down dunes when we were exhausted. They were like, this is so fun. Well, that's awesome. That's really cool that you did that. It does look like it's the same. I mean, it doesn't look like sand dunes back there, but knowing Death Valley, this makes sense. But then you had this kind of hazy stuff here connecting
It's a
them.
windy day.
And yeah, so I thought that made it easier to connect than, say, the straight lines that this one has, which, okay, hello, that this one has these very sharp lines, which in a real day, if it's not windy, with these, clearly the sand is not windy, it would look that way. But what doesn't seem to match is the sky to the light, versus in yours, the sky to the light, the shadows, they seem to be just as long and stuff like that. But I also love these steps. This would be the kind of thing that I would love to pick up from yours and then bring to the other one and try to see if you could make some tracks on, you know what I mean, on sand that doesn't have tracks, to bring up the texture and put it over there as a challenge. So that would be a fun thing to attempt. Anyway, and I was going to say this windy, like sand filled horizon works because of the wind on the women, right? Otherwise it would be weird, but it matches perfectly because you don't doubt that haze would be there. So now he mentioned, I haven't touched the morning sky. So I want to show you guys very quickly a way to change skies that is kind of built into Photoshop. So hi, Andrea. Good morning, Megan. And I think I've said hello to everyone now. Okay, so let's head over to Bridge. And I'm going to just show you really quick, meaning I don't spend the whole morning on this, but click on this. It's on the C's, crop straightened file. And just because we're trying to always begin to understand our metadata, let's figure out what it says. It's 2400 pixels by 1600 pixels. What do you guys think? Is this an image that could be printed? And if so, in what size? What would you read there? What's its resolution?
Will be 8x5.
Yeah, that's about right. And so it says that it's 240 PPI. Is that okay for printing?
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the minimum amount you want to see. And if so, if you look at the dimensions in inches, you can believe them, right? So if the resolution says 240, then the choice of dimensions in inches down here, and let me put a little color when I show this black background, it's harder to see. Then the dimensions in inches of 10 by 6, 7 are believable, okay? Because at 240, you can just print it as is. Thus, that makes sense. It's when this says 72, then this isn't believable. Or if it says 200 or 150, this wouldn't be believable. You'd have to kind of recalculate it. Does that make sense? But as long as it's 240 and higher, then you can believe whatever number this is saying. So yeah, that's just the reminder of how this works. We're going to be working more with the whole resolution conversation today. But for now, let's just double click and open it. Hello. Hello. It's deciding to hang out there and make me wait.
Well, oops, I'm clearly not muted. When I clicked on the photo,
Mhm.
I opened something that looked like a magnifying speech bubble in Bridge.
Oh, you can't click on this photo. The preview is not clickable.
Yes, that's what I did.
All it does is, yeah, so let me show you. You can, it opens up, let me go, now that Photoshop is opening, let me head back to Bridge. And when you click here in this preview, notice that your mouse,
Yes.
an arrow turns into a magnifying glass. And when you click on it, it opens exactly that, a magnifying glass, which especially here that there's so much sky, it's like, what is that? Go click on, say, this piece of land, or go click on this jetty here. And what it does is it gives you a tiny 100% view of that spot that's being pointed to. So what my mouse is clicking on, it's 100% preview. Why would 100% matter?
Because you want to see what it's 100%.
You want to see if before you open it, if this one
Right.
is the one that was good, so you can click on the persons in the
Uh-huh.
group and their eyes, see their faces and see, is this the right one? Right? And
Mhm.
so that's how you, and I'm just clicking, I'm not, dragging it, I'm just clicking on the different things that I want to check on, and I go, oh yeah, this is Tech Sharp, I can open it or something like that. So it just gives you a little view of it.
Okay,
big.
so I can just ignore it and go click on.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
but you have to go click on the icon that's here. Yeah, that's not
Yes,
openable
yeah,
from
yeah,
there.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
But it's kind of confusing because you're seeing the photo there. Why wouldn't it be, it doesn't
My
make
morning
sense.
brain really wanted to go there.
Yeah. All right, so there's a couple things here that are happening before we can do anything to the sky. This is a very crooked photo, and let's go fix it. And the straightening tool is the same as the crop tool. Some people find it extremely intuitive to use, and for some people it really confuses things, because for eons it functioned pretty obviously. You would straighten something and then it kind of worked, and and then about, I'd say a long time ago now, 6 or 7 years ago, it changed to one that doesn't look as intuitive, but is much more powerful. For some people, it confuses stuff. So let's work on that a little bit. First of all, the crop tool is down here, the 4th or 5th one. It's got these two little kind of interlocking corners. Let's click on that guy, or click the C for crop. And you get these little photo corners here, right? So if we were to want to crop this photo because we want to show less sky, and we start grabbing those photo corners and moving it in or something like that, that's one way to crop. And I'm making it into kind of like a panorama. I can make this to go up or down. What's happening is that I'm getting the stuff that's going to stay, and I'm just saying that what we wanted is just this little bit of photo. I'm going to keep what's going to stay with the normal color, and then everything that's going to leave the moment I complete this crop goes kind of grayed out. See that? But it's not cropped yet, nor has it been straightened. I'm just kind of showing you how you would crop if you could freeform crop this thing. Now, you might not be in freeform crop mode. You might not have that setting. And so let me show you. Oh, hold on. And see, it kind of jumps around where you're doing it, but you need to have nothing here and nothing here for this to work, for it to be completely like, I could make this long and thin little thing turn into a picture if I want to, right? And the rest crop it out. So that's called freeform. So I'll go over here and make sure that you guys, well, not freeform, it just has no constraints on it. So you have to have this ratio one turned on here, and then nothing here. So if you have any numbers here, hit the clear button right there so that those disappear. Now, I've been playing around doing stuff to this and moving it around in whatever direction I want. Let's go ahead and say undo for a second by not committing to the crop, nor this would be completely closing out the crop. Let's just reset it so that I don't leave the tool. If I click on the forbidden, I would leave the tool. We'll reset it to start from 0 again. And now there's a couple of other things up here that I want to show you before we commit the next crop. We actually commit the crop. So all of this, nothing is happening while I'm doing all of this. Life is, we're just testing. It would be the moment I hit this. So just watch for a second. I'm going to hit this and say commit the crop, or hit the return key, that my crop actually happens and I actually redo it. In which case at this point it's done. So I can undo, but it's not like I can go back here and redo. This is grayed out. The crop happened, and everything that was in the photo that I just cropped is completely gone and lost forever. Good thing we have our history. So I'm going to do Control Z. Or Command Z and bring all my stuff again. But you don't want to hit return on anything until you're sure of a couple of other things that are up here. So what I want to do is the following. When I first want to make sure that I'm really ready to delete my cropped pixels, right? So if so, then click on that. So once I crop like that, and I'm going to crop like that and say go, then there's nothing left. If I try to go to move that layer, I'll have to unlock it back here because it's stiff. If I try to move it, I've nothing left. All my other stuff is truly gone. That's because I said delete crop pixels. I'm going to go ahead and undo the move and undo the crop. Okay, I'm back to having the whole thing. And now when I try to crop again, I'm going to let go of the delete crop pixels. I'm going to go ahead and make a tiny little crop again of this photo. And I'm going to make a crop again. And now the good news is that if I move around, all that stuff is still there. See there? So I'm not getting rid of it. It's just that I made the crop the actual hole this photo needs to fit in. So then I can go, well, maybe I prefer it over here, maybe I prefer it over here, maybe I prefer it over here, but maybe this is the size of the frame or the hole I have, the space I have in my magazine article or in the collage I'm making is this big. So then I can refit it around until I get what I need. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm going to go ahead and undo all of that again. And when you undo all of that again, you can go all the way back to the very top and start from 0. That way, that if you don't want to go step by step, you just, if you completely want to do every single thing you've done, click on the top one, and then that undoes and brings you back to the file that you opened, including in this case, it's still locked. The only reason I needed to unlock is that I could show you guys that there was pixels behind there. All right, so have you guys tried the difference between delete with and without cropped pictures?
Yeah,
Yes,
and
Baylor?
why would you want to delete the cropped pixels? Is it to save
Oh,
space or?
Yeah, you might, maybe there's a photo where there's, I personally believe in not deleting the crop pixels, but sometimes maybe you have the original already and this is a copy and you really only need this little bit of it for some reason. And then you're gonna trash this file because you have the original somewhere else. Well, so then you don't care, delete it, grab it, smaller file, you keep working. But make sure that you have this duplicated, right? Or there's a chance where you really have a photo that's there's images sometimes that there's clearly never in the world, like you have this happy couple on the beach with the waves in the sea, and then here in the corner there's something that I don't know, the beach trash can or something. And you're never going to want that photo to have that trash can. You can copy stuff all over it if you're good at doing compositing and stuff, or you can just crop that out and say, I'm never going to want that. I don't know. I'm just throwing out an idea. I don't have a better example of never wanting something, but yeah, there's times when you might never, ever want that thing that's in the way. Who knows? I personally kind of keep the pixels there, especially if this is my master file is what I call it. The one that I'm working on that I might want to come back and change a year later, 2 years later, when I learn some more techniques, when I need it again for another project. I only believe in having the final file. So today we're going to go through the whole process of what you do when you have a photo and how you turn it into something useful for different outputs. And that final output file that does become a JPEG is the one that maybe will remain cropped forever. But the original, this one, the layered file, you keep it with all of its glory just to keep being able to work on it whenever you need. That's my way of working. So anyway, one last time back to the crop tool. Now, what if you have a specific ratio that you want? So say that you know that your photo needs to fit into an 8x10 or 4x5 frame is the exact same ratio, right? So that's why they're together. So what if you have an 8x10 frame? That's a pretty typical frame for people to have. So I'll click on that and it's showing me a proportion of 8x10 for this photo, but I'm like, no. I want it in the other position. I wanted it 8x10 not 8x10. So then you go over here and you have to flip, click here in these two arrows and it flips to 8x10 or 10x8, or in this case, 4x5 or 5x8. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And now I'm constrained. First of all, I won't delete these. I will just use these corners. But notice that now this doesn't give me the chance to make it long and thin, or, you know, tall and skinny. And then it also, if I put it out here, it expands into this nothingness that you go, what's happening here? Well, it's the crop tool is giving you the opportunity of doing the opposite of cropping, which is expand, do more photo. So let me show you this example. If I decide to do this as a crop, which, you know, I don't know why I would do that, but let me just say, okay. Then it actually gives you empty space, like literally empty space. If I change to the move tool right now, I can move this photo around, and then I've had some empty space added in there, right? I'm going to undo that again. So sometimes you need that empty space. So an example of that would be, say that, now let me give you an actual reason for why you might want some empty space at some point. I'm going to clear actually the ratio, so clear so that this doesn't constrain me. And what I want to do instead is I want to put out like that, an extra space, and watch what I'm going to do. And again, forget that it's still not straight. I'm just, all these examples can't be given if I keep straightening it each time, because I'm doing and I'm doing and I'm doing. And what I'm going to do, hold on. I just redid it and undid it. Let me get smaller. I'm going to stretch this out to be yay big, right? Why would I do that? Well, watch, I'm going to say okay to that. And then what if I put a layer underneath there that I fill with, for example, let me pick up a bit of light blue here. And I'm gonna go ahead and fill this background here with a little bit of that light blue. And then make a little note here, like, come to my wedding or birthday party celebrated at the lake, yada, yada. You know what I'm trying to say? So you have extended the canvas size of this image. You're not putting more image in here, but you created a photo that has space around it for some other reason. And then this is what you're going to print with details about the save the date or whatever this might be, or it's the brochure for my, you know, stay at our beautiful bed and breakfast or whatever it is.
Deanna, what did you click to fill that space? After you
Yeah.
picked it?
Oh, I just did a shortcut to fill. You can otherwise you have to select all, go to image fill. I'm not trying, I have too much other stuff to show you, so I wasn't necessarily going to show you that, but it basically, you have to select the layer and then go to edit. Which one is it? Shift to fill and fill with a color. We're going to go through that kind of stuff. So I just did a quick shortcut to do it really quickly to show you the intention of extending, but give me a sec because I have more to teach you, and then we'll get into what we do with spaces like that. So I'm going to just undo this. And now one final redo. So that's if you extend otherwise, but now we are actually going to go into the straightening, and then we're going to use this content aware tool, which is really cool. So watch. I'm going to straighten this, and there's a tool in here called straightening. So I could, by the way, just eyeball it, and let me show you the eyeballing method, which sometimes it's the only method you could use before. If I put my mouse right outside a corner, my mouse becomes like a double-headed arrow. And when I click and drag, a grid appears that I can kind of try to match the background to the whole thing to move it to the right to straighten it. You right? So that's one way, but there's a better way. So I'm going to say return over here, go up to the top and say reset. And the better straightening tool, or the focused straightening tool, so to say, would be this one, the one that says straighten, and you have to click on it for it to get black. Now you have the straightening tool in your hand. So watch, Oh, the grid was left behind after I tried to straighten before, but just ignore that grid for a second. And watch what I'm gonna do. If you can see something that's straight, which is usually a horizon line, you can click your mouse on one tip. So the corner, see my mouse has that like plus sign? The center of that plus sign, that's the point, the tip of your mouse here, the center of the plus sign. So you put the center of the plus sign on this end of the straighten right there, right? And then you, whoa, hold on. Click it over there. Oh, where's my straighten? After you let go, you need to. And then you move over to the other. Hello, why is it drag? And then you drag a line and you drag it to as far as what you can consider is the correct, like if you can really see that. Now I can really see because it's light. And then I let go.
Every
And then
time I
that
click,
straightened it.
every time I click on it, it takes it out of the straightening tool.
You have to click and keep dragging.
Okay,
Okay, and then when you undo it, you have to select it again. So you click, hold down your mouse, like at the furthest edge of what you consider for sure to be a good horizon line. And then you take it, and I can't tell anymore in the hills, about here I can tell. And that gives me a good enough sampling. And when I let go of my mouse, then it straightens. And then you're not eyeballing it. It's the computer knowing. You could do that also to long vertical lines. If something is vertical and you don't have a good horizon, you can go along it and the computer knows that it's supposed to straighten upwards, so to say. Did that work for everyone?
yes.
All right. So now look what's going to happen. Now that it's been straightened, what is happening is that our computer is saying, sorry, but if I make this straight, I'm going to have to lose all this part of this photo. I'm going to lose that. I'm going to lose that. See that? Which, again, for hundreds of years, that's all you could do with a straightening. Now, given the great tools of, oh, by the way, I hit the return key. I forgot. I always do it with the return key. So that was my commit, so to say. And so there it is. There's my straightened photo. I rarely go to the check mark. So, but I needed, when you guys are there, I need to tell you I'm doing that. So there's my straightened photo. But what if I had an important thing here? What if I had something I couldn't lose? Or what if I needed that size of a photo? Because this photo now turned into a 9.5 by 6. And what if I truly needed an 8 by 10 or whatever this photo had said it was? What was it supposed to be? Trying to remember 1 second. That photo was supposed to be a 10 by 6.7, right? So I don't have that anymore. What if I really needed it to be 10? Yeah. So I'm kind of cropping stuff out, which in this case is more mountain and a little bit of pier or whatever, dock, I guess this is, and some sky is probably going away. So what if I don't want to do that? So let's go back on history, start with a new one again. And now there's a tool here, which is really cool, which allows me to, let's straighten it one more time now. But let's turn on this content aware right there. Turn on content aware. Very important. Now I'm going to straighten one last time. I'm going to click from here to here, and then I'm going to let go. So the straightening is going to happen. And on top of that, I'm going to actually want to keep the photo being as big as that canvas used to be. So I don't want to lose that little bit, this little bit. I actually want to go into this whole canvas. So I'm going to grab the corners and I'm going to straighten it out so that it fills the same space that it used to fill. Okay. And if I don't have content aware turned on and I do that, what's going to happen is I'm going to have a photo that shows up crooked on my background. because the content aware is turned on, when I now say go, computer is gonna fill in those empty spots. And in some places it'll do a better job than others.
It's cool.
And hello,
No,
why didn't you do the tops? It only did the bottom, it didn't do the tops and the sides.
What did you click to do that?
I just turned on the content aware and then I said go, like I hit the return to say, yeah, you were going. And then that's when the content aware happens, but it filled the bottom, you see? It invented doc right here, but it didn't fill my two sides. I was expecting the whole thing to fill out. Did it do it for you guys?
Yes.
No,
I think VDI, for some reason, it couldn't process it. I don't know. That's not a big problem. If you got this, then we can use the spot healing tool here, the one that we use to kit out pimples. But it should have done all the sides, but I'm going to go ahead and get a bigger tool about as big as this space. So you need to overlap a little bit into the spot that you want. So there has to be a little bit of overlap, not too much. If you overlap too much, it replaces stuff. So the minimum amount you can to overlap. And then I'm going to drag and keep going in so that I have the smallest amount of overlap I can. And do like that and let go. And then the computer creates more of that. And then I'm going to do the same thing up here. Overlap. See how I'm barely touching what's good to give it something to imitate and copy. And you tell it what you want it to imitate and copy. And then it invents more of that. And then I'm going to do that here. And then I have filled it out. I don't know why the crop didn't just fill it out automatically, but I did it with the spotting tool. And now I have some good stuff and some bad stuff. Depending on your photo, I'm going to go to controller command 1 to go to 100%. And the sky did a pretty marvelous job. That contrail is still going. The mountain is like looking really good. Here, there's a little squiggle in there that I'm not sure if it's realistic, because why would there be a squiggle? Nothing seems to be there. Maybe the water, I don't know. So we can fix that a little bit. How would you fix that? Well, one of the ways to fix it is to actually go and try another little clip on an area that's kind of weird to see if it kind of does a better job there. That looks a bit more realistic now. So the only place where there's something strange happening is over here. And I'm going to go a little bit closer up to show you where right in the corner of this image, we had one of these guys. And so the image had to read what was right above it, and what was right above it, the edge was this. So it just put a bit more of that edge. So see how that doesn't work. It doesn't match, but it did a pretty good job of this whole board, but that doesn't work. So can anyone imagine how you can fix that? What tool have I already taught you with which we can fix that?
the clone.
Yes, the clone. A, the clone. B, if you're lucky, you can also use a bit of this, copy, paste, and put it in here. The problem you'll have with that is the lighting might work or not work when you try to flip things. If the sun is right on top, it might work, but if the sun is not right on, oh shoot. Come on. Let me undo that. I'm getting, I did the Mac shortcut. So let's try first with the clone tool. One thing I want to warn you is that we're doing all of this in a destructive manner. Okay, so clearly if we mess up, we're actually messing the actual image. So I should have first had us do that in a different way. But up until now, it didn't matter too much because we were just adding something that was fake. Now we're about to do a spotting here that could really mess things up because it's maybe the first time you're doing it and you're trying to really be sure. So at this point, maybe we should try to not mess this one up. Let's do a duplicate of this layer and do this that we're about to do on another one. To see if we get it right. We could also do the whole thing on a, yeah, I guess, you know what, let me do, let's do it the right way. Oh, hold on, I haven't noticed that Barbara's, I hope she hasn't been waiting a while in the waiting room. I just looked up and saw, hi Barbara, I hope you weren't waiting too long. I just noticed you were in the waiting room.
How do you make a duplicate?
Okay, so if I want to duplicate, so you have two options to make this non-destructive, okay? One thing that everyone learns to do in Photoshop, which is the way we did it when we didn't have ways of doing it non-destructively, is to duplicate the layer. But let me show you something. Way down here, let's go choose document sizes. So what I mean by that is go to this numbers and there's a little arrow next to it. When you click on it, you get choices of what numbers you can see here. Let's choose document sizes. So look at the document size. It's originally it was 12.2 is what it's saying right there, slash 16.3. So 12.2 megabytes is what it used to be. The slash 16.3 is what it is now after what I've changed. And what have I changed on this one? Remember, I've just added a whole bunch of pixels that weren't there. Let me, don't do this, by the way, because I don't want to risk you losing this, but let me go back in history and show you the original image and then go down there and now look, it says 11 megabytes by 11 megabytes because that's the original numbers. As I moved up doing different things, so I cropped, so the file already went from, because of the content, to where it got bigger. Then I did the spot healing brush and I added all that. And so now I've got more file size than I had originally, right? So the left size went from 11 to 12, which should be the original file size. So that's just because I layered it. I let go of it being locked. And then now that becomes its regular file size. And the second is the one that we're duplicating. So consider 16 megabytes. And now look what's going to happen if I duplicate this layer, the old fashioned way of doing non-destructive. So I'm going to do Command or Control J, and I have two of these layers. Great. That's the first thing everyone teaches you if they're not teaching you how to do things the right, not destructive way. They say duplicate the layer, which seems easy, but look what's happening down here. My actual file size now became from 16 that was there, 32, 16 something to 32. You have doubled the amount of pixels on your file. So it's now twice as big.
Mine didn't double, stayed the same.
Did you make a duplicate here?
Yeah,
And are you clicking on document sizes versus something else?
document sizes is clicked.
Well, I don't know why, but that's what happens. So maybe it still has to reset. The whole point is that you have two layers. It's like I've one photo and another photo. I have two photos, right? The stuff that we did the other day. So you're adding more pixels onto an image. So it makes sense suddenly. Oh, of course, pixels are what weighs down a photo. Now you have double of them. So if every single thing that you try to do, you duplicate the whole image so that you leave behind the original. And then you have a new, and you do this to it, and then you duplicate that again, and you do this to it, which is the old way of non-destructive, like when the non-destructive choices didn't exist. I mean, I started working on Photoshop, 20 something years ago. That's the only way we could know that if we mess something up, we could always turn off that layer. And down there, I had to step ahead and then start from there again. But your file becomes humongous. And it becomes unwieldy. Your computer might not be able to handle it. When you're storing a whole bunch of unuseful pixels that you don't really need anymore. So, and I'm just saying this because if you've ever seen any little how to do this, follow that, 90% of the times, little videos in YouTube telling you how to do, 99% of the times they're going to tell you to duplicate the whole layer to attempt to correct this. I'm going to tell you don't do that. So we can either go Command Z to undo that, or we can just trash that extra layer that we just did it. And do you remember how I taught you to do non-destructive stuff? Create an empty layer. So now I've gotten rid of that trash and my number's gone back down to 16 here on the bottom, right? It's back to 16. I've deleted the extra one. But now I'm going to create a empty new layer with this little plus sign. And if I look over there, that empty new layer isn't costing me anything, so to say. It's still at 16.3. And now I'm going to grab this second retouching tool. And we're going to try between this one and the clone tool. I'm going to try to see which one I think works better. I'm going to start with this tool and make sure up here, I had turned it on the other day, so it should still be on, but make sure it's still on, and it says sample all layers. And now I'm going to zoom into that area that needs to be fixed. I'm zooming in a bit, putting down my,
Kristen,
what's that? I actually messed up here at one point when I was doing something else and I covered over the tip of my computer was lagging, and I have this whole streak here that's weird. And I'm gonna have to, let me go all the way back to the beginning. I need to undo that, and then the content crop, okay. There you go. And if I do my feed spot, that last spot here in the brush is one I don't need, there we go. So see, that was an example of actually for real using the history to fix something. You saw what I had here? Watch. I was moving things around, and since I was having a lag because of VDI, I had this tool in my hand and I made a big drag, and look, you can see that my water here was replaced and the tip of my thing is missing. That's because a spot healing brush occurred that I thought I had undone and I hadn't. So I just went all the way to the beginning and tried all of them, and I discovered it was the last one. As soon as I undo that, then I have my whole thing again. So that's good that I just went ahead and had that available, because I hadn't noticed it until I zoomed in. So anyway, now I'm back in history.
If you went back in history, you couldn't go forward again.
You can, yes, but what
You
I
would
had,
lose it.
yes, I would have to deal with losing, but I don't want to lose the tip of my pier. If I had been working for another 20 actions, yeah, that's a bad choice, but either that or lose my, that's not something I can fix. I can't recreate that out of nowhere. So the
Gotcha.
fact that it's in my history still is good. If I had done 50 clicks, which I'm going to be doing 50 clicks really quickly now to get rid of that, then it would have been out of range and I wouldn't have been able to go back for it. And I would have had to go back to the beginning and start from scrap. At least I don't have to redo the content aware crop. I don't have to redo all my spot healing, which I fixed up at the top. I think you missed that piece, the content aware crop, but for now, let's just.
That's fine. I just didn't realize that you could go back.
Yeah.
I thought it all disappeared.
Now I'm in the middle of my history, or 2/3 up or whatever. So now when I do the next thing, this part will disappear. In this case, this part was my doing a duplicate and deleting because I was showing you, so it doesn't matter. But say it had mattered, I have to put the value of this there ahead and go, no, I really need to go backwards, right? And the reason I need to do that is because I've been showing you how to do the stuff on the original layer, which I've always
Right.
said is really the destructive way of doing
Yeah.
it. But now I'm going to show you the non-destructive way of doing it. So let's go ahead and create a new layer. Then choose your second, so the healing brush tool, not the spot healing brush tool, but the second one, the healing brush tool. Make sure you've got the right one. And now make sure you have all layers there. So now I'm going to take a sample of what I want, and I'm going to make it about as big as what I need it. So I'm going to my my brush tool right here is showing me a whole bunches of pixels, and I'm going to make it, you know, be as good as I can. But I hate this. I always tell you, because I don't know what size that is until I put it here. And I go, oh, that's what size it is. And then I move it and that's the size it's here. So I recommend always going straight to the area where you want and then using the brackets to make it. So what I want it to be is about, oh, when you do that, you have to, I know. So then you have to, what you want to do is change the hardness. I don't want it 100% hard. I want it a little bit soft, but not too soft because I need these lines to stay straight. So I'm going to start with, I don't know, 75 hardness. And then I let go. And I want to keep this about as big as what I need, which is about, if I'm very good with my mouse and don't stray, this might be right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this into here. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So I'm going to sample as far as I can. And it might work, it might not work. We'll try it. I'm going to hit the Option key or Alt key and give it a quick click. Alt click. And now I'm carrying around that little bit, okay, that I sampled. All right, so now I know that my plus sign is going to be marking that. And now I'm going to go over here and see how the size already is different because this is smaller than what we had here.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to do the best we can. And then we're going to use that extra layer to see if we can fix it. So I'm going to put this on one of the edges, right? So I think maybe the edge,
That one.
I'm not sure which one matters more. Is the edge with the board or the edge with the, maybe this one with the edges with the board. Try to put the thing. Now click and hold, and now I'm going to start dragging down. And so what's being copied up there, yeah, I'm going to make it before I hit that little shape. Looks like I can make it. And now I'm not letting go of my mouse and I keep painting. Right? So it's
So cool.
bringing in all that stuff that was up there. I have to be careful. I'm about to hit the other guy. So I ended up hitting it. I shouldn't have.
Do we
So
hold down the
that's-
control or the alt button?
So I'm going to undo that and show you again. First, you hold down the Alt or Option key to take your sampling. Okay, that's the sampling. Now, it's so much smaller that I'm wondering right now if that's not a better idea. Watch. What if I come over here and take my sampling from this area and then repeat it a few times? So I'm going to undo that. So Command Z to everything you guys have done. I think it's better if we do this a few times. So I'm going to click over here in this area that the size is going to be closer. So I'm going to take a sampling of right there in between those things, whatever those things are called, right there. Now I'm going to go over here and that might make my fixing a little bit easier. But watch, I'm going to click and start dragging, but see how very little space I have before I run out of, before I start touching that. What are these
Which-
things called?
which
I'm
button
having
Rivets, they're called rivets.
no, the thing that holds
Oh,
the rope.
The
What's that?
anchors?
Is that what it's called? An anchor? It's got a name. Okay. I didn't match the edges very well there, so I'm going to undo because I can see the line isn't good. So
Which
Yeah.
button do we hold down? Click or alt?
Alt or
Control or alt?
Option, if you're a PC person, it's Alt. For Mac, it's so to do the sampling, you mean? You do
No,
the
to-
sampling with Alt or Option. And then you let
Right.
go and you don't hold any button. You just put your mouse down and start
then-
dragging. So there's no more button. The only time you hold the button down is when you are copying.
But what if you want something to stay there?
I don't know what you mean by what if you want something to stay there. Let me finish doing it so that I can keep showing you. And I'll talk you with my words through what I'm doing. And then hopefully that'll answer your question. And if not, so right now I took my sampling. Let me undo this again. I do a sampling. How do I do the sampling? Hold down the Option Alt and then click my mouse one time. That's the sampling. I have it sampled. Now let go of your hands. Hands are loose. Move your mouse over to the area. Try to match it so that is a good spot for it. I'm gonna match it right there. And now I click my mouse, and now with it clicked down, just my mouse clicked down, I start pulling down. Okay, so I'm just see my other hand is free. I'm not pressing anything. And what's happening is that what's being copied onto here is that X, you see the X up there where my sampling was taken? It's copying what's up by my X and it's now moving down. So now that X up top is finding another rivet. So now I'm painting a rivet. Now I'm going to the left and picking some of that water and it's painting some water. You see that? So wherever that X is above is what's being painted onto right here. So see, I'm just starting that rivet. I'm getting that rivet. Now I can't go much further because I'm going to begin to bring that anvil, that thing, that whatever, the hold fast thing there. So I'm going to let go of my mouse. So now I am done. I can't go any further. And now I'm going to go take another sampling of that same spot, right? So I'm going to go to this spot and sample again, just to move my X, so to say, back out. And now I'm going to put it here and try to match that and keep going and see if I can keep erasing. Now I've made a bad choice with my rivets. So see how I have two rivets right next to each other. Oh no, that is what's real happening up in the other side of the world. There really is two rivets together. Okay, I thought I had two fake rivets. And then I copy that much, but then I'm left with the fact that I can't keep. Oh, I know what would be better in this case. I could just do the left edge and then the right edge. That might work. Okay, I just figured out a way to do this one. Let me undo all of that. Let me go back to these 3 layer brushes. I'm back in my original. I'm going to try to make a smaller spot actually, and I'm going to try to just do a long line for this side and then do a long line for the outer edge, and that might work better. So watch, I'm going to try it. I'm going to click and take a sampling way up there and my mouse is just going to try to cover this side, and it doesn't matter what's happening on there. So I'm going to try to match it here. I'm going to go to this is all good. So I don't want to erase good stuff. I'm going to go as far as I can before I have to put new stuff in, which is there. And now I'm going to start dragging all the way across the line to create a new left edge. And I go up and down. Oh, there I touched, shoot. See how there I touched, I went a bit too high and I touched in the middle of the bridge. I had that thing there. That's okay, I'll fix that. So now I brought the left side in. So I've recreated the whole edge. Then I'm going to select a little bit here to fix there what I had copied the wrong stuff. So now I've brought in the whole left edge in. See how that worked? Now I'm going to go and sample click on the ocean part, and I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to recreate the ocean side and hope it looks realistic enough that I can. How am I going to make it before I touch that? I'm kind of bringing in that little. So I have a few extra rivets than what I'd like, but I think that worked kind of well. I can go in and try to undo some of those rivets, but who's to say that that thing doesn't have more rivets? But anyway, other than that, I can try to erase some of those with more cloning onto itself. There, I got rid of that rivet. So that, consider that this photo is yay big. So I can go make the color a little bit more like it, but that looks pretty good, I'd say. Oh, let me go up. And remember that this is at 200% that I'm looking at it right now. So it's already going to be higher than what normally would look. If I go up higher and higher to say a 300 or 400, I can begin to see the details, but that's not how people are going to see that. People are going to see it at 100%. So I'd like to fix some of the color because that might catch my attention. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone some of these boards again. So I'm going to click option some over here and sample some of this wood from nearest where it's gonna be. Like I'm gonna copy some of the wood over here and then bring that over here so that that gets covered. And then some of this, I'm clicking, oops. You have to match the lines, clicking and dragging. So now I've kind of only have a little bit of weirdness right there. So I'm going to go and sample a little bit more from another neutral area over here. Bring that over here and see if I can get, where's the bad stuff there? Get that. No copied. And that one I didn't put in the right spot, so I need to try again. Didn't undo. That one looks like I'm matching it better. So there, by the time I'm done, that's the before. And this is the after. Kind of recreated that whole edge there. I'm still not happy with the colors that's happening there, so I can go keep playing around with it a little bit more, but I do have a whole class to teach. But I, you know, this kind of stuff can take hours to get it perfect, but if I work on it a little bit longer here and there, I will get it perfect. I'm going to go and sample a little tap of this and then match it here and cover that color over, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to go back to Command or Control 1, which is the percentage people are going to see. Oh, I left that little change there. That didn't work. Let me undo it. Last. This is the fake, what's this called? Fake dock railing, something like that. And in the context of everything, that doesn't call my attention. The color here still calls my attention a little bit, but for the most part, that's not what I'm looking at. I'm looking at the general picture now. I'm going to stop my share. And for everyone who is having questions about how to make this work, now I'll give you all my one-on-one undivided attention to show you how to make it work. So Andrea, I asked you to let me continue to show it, and now I'm done. So can you share your screen and I can?
I actually figured it out.
Oh, cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Anyone else who wants to show me what is or isn't working on theirs?
I have a question, but I need to log in. Give me a minute,
Into your
please.
other screen. Okay, go ahead and log in.
Yeah.
So you can show me. How about everyone else? This is not easy, and it'll take some time because we've got the issue of color, of that thing in the middle blocking my space, and I also have lines on the dock, and then I have color. So you have to slowly tackle one by one each of them. It's possible that the clone tool, the one that I didn't use, might have helped with the color not turning so much darker. But other than that, pretty much you can come, and you can combine tools, right? So I can go up here now and say, okay, let me now.
We can't see your screen. We're seeing you.
Yeah, because I'm waiting for Mason is about to share.
Okay.
So what I can go down to the little spot where my color is a bit off, I could switch to the clone tool, which doesn't affect color, and then try to just cover. Okay, here we go, Mason. So what I'm saying is you don't need to stick with one tool. You can, shift. All right. So yeah. Okay, so the initial
I
content
don't
to
know how
where.
to build this.
Okay, so that is not a very good content aware attempt. Now, you see, you guys, this is important because your depending on exactly what your content aware computer did, it gave you a different result, right? So this is what hers did, which isn't a very good result. So if I would go all the way back, if I were you, and start again, so go move backwards in your history. Yeah, click on there. And now let's start again. So you seem to have a selection there on the side. I'm not sure. Can you go and do select, deselect to make sure you don't have an active selection happening way at the top? Go up to the, or say Control or Command D, or go up to the top and deselect. You have some, all your top choices, top, way at the top. File, edit, image, layer, type, select, the very top. Yeah, go to select, which is foreign. Yeah, click on that and say deselect. So you don't. So I'm seeing those white lines on the bottom right of your image, and I thought it
Yeah.
might be a selection. So that's why I thought you might have a selection there, but you don't. Okay.
Mhm.
That's why I said do otherwise a Control D that helps you. All right, so if this is your initial image, you did seem to have put a brush somewhere. Go back to your history. I think you clicked on your brush or something. Because back to your history. I think you still had a brush. Yeah, you have a brush that you did there. Go start there again. Perfect. Now close that up and go choose your crop tool. So Barbara, you missed this portion, but this is what we did at first to straighten it. So if you want to see what happened, yeah, click on the crop tool. Now go ahead and do the straightening. Go click on your straighten. Yeah. And then go and drag a line across the horizon. Click on the okay. So it worked, but you want to drag it right across the edge that was the horizon. You dropped it. It straightened pretty well, so that's good.
Mhm.
But where's your content to where? Was it turned on? Yeah.
Right here.
So notice there, Barbara, in case I didn't see the word content to where on hers. Mine said content to where, but hers just has this little icon. It has to be turned on. So this is the content aware fill. Okay. So you need to have that clicked if it's a check mark, or if your tools are showing like hers, then you need to have it dark. So now go ahead and do your straightening again. Click there and move to the right. And once you get to the other side, let go of your mouse. And then that did it. Okay. Now you need to grab the corners outside and take them to where the edge of, yeah, go ahead and move them to the
Yeah.
edges of your, no, outwards. You want to fill, you want the content to fill to the corner. Yeah, there.
And then this one too.
And then the top one, the left one. Yeah. You got to get to your edges.
So that's the
Okay.
reason.
So that's probably what was missing in here. So now you have it. You've told it, okay, please fill to those edges. And now go ahead and say go, which is up into that. And the content aware should fill all that empty space. Although in my case, it only filled the bottom, but which is bizarre. Okay, say commit current crop operation, go for it, say go. And there it is. So yours did fill everything.
Oh, it's still processing.
Oh, it's working on it. But still, it did fill everything. See how
okay.
yours filled everything? This is what should have happened to mine too. But I think because VDI couldn't process it, it stopped it only filling the bottom. So
Okay.
then what we did
that's
here,
the
Barbara,
reason.
is
I
I
need to-
filled the 3. You need
I
to
need to
extend
bring
it.
to the corner.
Yeah,
Okay.
extend it. But now scroll down. Because now you'll find that you still have
Yeah,
that issue.
right.
You only have 2 extra ones. Mine had like 3 extra ones. But now create a blank layer because you still had a duplicate layer on yours and I didn't want a duplicate layer. I want a blank layer. So go in a plus sign, do a little plus sign here on the bottom. Nope, see you've duplicated it. So undo that. I
Oh,
don't want you to work on a completely
Okay.
new layer. I want you to start with a blank one. Yeah.
yeah.
And now go and choose your
Healing brush.
healing brush. Yeah.
Mhm.
And now make sure up there it says all layers, which it does. Okay, and now start doing the work. Perfect. You have to alt, put the thing there, hold down the alt, and then do a simple click. Good. And now you start trying to match one edge. Perfect. Make sure you were a little bit hasty there, and notice that where you first started, the edge isn't perfect. So go ahead and do Command Z. And then now hover and put it right. No, the sampling doesn't need to be taken again. The sampling was
Oh.
fine. Come down here and now go to the very edge. That part was good. Don't start yet. Move it down to where it begins to go bad.
Here,
And now match. See how it's a tad off? Match until that line is completely. Move your mouse until you're completely in the same. And then, yeah, so
like
see
that.
how your sampling will be a little bit off or not, depending. I think it's there. And now click and start dragging downwards.
It's still off. Okay.
It's a little bit, so Command Z. Until you'll tell when it finally matches. It'll be like magic. It'll be like, oh, that looks perfect.
Like this.
Now,
Yeah.
the problem is that you've covered a lot of stuff that used to be good. So I would say Command Z twice. Like start right at that bottom ribbit. You don't want to get rid of all that's good. Keep going down, keep going down. There's when it starts to go bad. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
why cover and undo? Why cover something that's still good? There you go. And now remember, don't forget to go a little bit to your right to get the boards also. So don't let go of your mouse, but start going to the right. When you're done with that, keep going to the right onto the boards of to the right, not to the left, to the
Oh.
right, to the right, to the right, to get some of those board. Yeah, there, keep going there. That stuff is good. Don't cover stuff that's good. Cover the stuff that's bad. Yeah, keep going
Oh,
and keep going with the boards. Perfect. There you go. Keep going. And then back and forth until you keep covering all the way to the bottom.
I'm still holding the mouse.
Yes,
Is
yes,
it
yes.
okay I can move the screen.
No,
No, so I need to let go and then
you
re-simple.
go as far as you can, yeah. But that, mhm. And then now go and keep recovering that edge. And then when you're done, and then go and see the colors a little bit different at the bottom, go back down to the bottom and do a little on the, yeah. And so when it looks as good as it can on that side, then you finally let go of your mouse.
Okay, so
And that
you
was
think
a
this one
pretty,
can
it's a
be-
great edge. No, because you can't do
Oh,
both, because over there it's much
okay.
thinner than here. So now you got one edge really good. Now you go and sample from the very top. Oh, and you have to, yeah,
Yeah,
you should have,
That's why.
yeah,
I'm-
you should have had the,
yeah.
so now you have to, but it's okay. You've the same sampling works. Keep with that sampling, stay with the sampling, go back down now, put it over. Oh, you did another sampling. Yeah.
Oh, I
And
did.
then keep going down. Yeah. And keep back and forth until you get as much as you can, the colors.
It just
So
color.
yeah, so here's the problem with this tool. It's trying to adapt to the color that's down there, and the blue down there is darker, so it's making your whole deck darker, but it's okay. This is why you might need at this point the clone tool, which is what I was saying at the end. Okay,
Mhm.
so if you've done as much as you can, now go up to the very, very top. Get yourself some of the other edge. So do an alt click to the other edge right there. Okay, so now you're carrying that edge with you. And now go down, match it a little bit better. It's, yeah, and then start painting downwards, and then, yeah, there you go. And then cover. Oh, careful, you don't want to go as far as to bring that other line in there, see, because you're undoing what you did before. But you might
Mhm.
have to anyway, because in the end, it was a little bit off. See, you're bringing that whole, see, be careful. Look at what's happening with the cross up there. Now you're bringing in, it's so thin up there that you're bringing the other edge in. You see what I mean? So you're going to have to redo that. So I would say stop and undo this last one and start again, and trying to keep only to the left edge. Okay. Don't cover that shadow, because that shadow needs to be there. Okay. And now click and drag and start going down the shadow of that like rope holder or whatever. And that's, there you go. And now you go into the ocean is fine. Do as much as you can, the whole left edge. So move to the, and yeah, move it more to the left, because that edge isn't there yet. Keep going and up and down.
It's already.
The left,
cut. do the.
Yeah, go up, keep going up. Don't let go of your mouse and redo that edge a bit because it needs more covering. Yeah. Okay. So once you've got as much as you can, then you have to go and grab from somewhere in the middle and fill in the middle of that. You know what I mean? Now it's getting so thin up there and so fat down here that you might need to stick to the fatter part and just do a shorter bits and pieces from the middle and then go down and try to fill a little bit.
How come?
Yeah, you're gonna have to go
Right.
now and redo the edge again. So go back and get some edge. Now that you've got the color a bit better, pick a little bit of edge from about, yeah, maybe there. Click on there and then go down and match the edge. So yeah, it's oh, you started it without it matching. So Command Z and first, don't redo so much. That's good. Wait, you're starting way up. Okay, it worked because you got it a good, but try to not redo the part that worked and go down to where it doesn't work, right? And match it and don't keep like,
Here.
that's not matching yet. So move it to the edge. Move the edge onto the, you have to match a little bit more to the right.
It just won't line up.
Yeah, well, there, I know. There, you're on Zoom, so things don't work as well when you're on Zoom. So it's almost there, but the edge isn't matching, right? So you need to go and match a little bit more, but see, it's slowly appearing. And then you can go to the right and get some of the boards. Oh, you lifted your mouse. Yeah, within the
Uh-huh.
same,
Oh, but then you say the tool still stay, right?
yeah. So
Still cannot.
yeah,
do
it's still reading the bottom, trying to adapt
Yeah.
it. So we might need to switch to the crop tool for that. So let me just show you. Go to the crop tool instead,
Mhm.
which is not, sorry, crop, rubber stamp. Yikes. The stamp tool, which is a few
That's
down. Yeah,
the-
there. So that's the stamp tool. It works exactly the same as the tool that you've just been working on, but it will keep the original color. So go back up now and sample some of the, at this point, you want something from a bit lower so that the boards match in width. So from in between, maybe come down even a little bit lower. And yeah, sample from there a little bit higher, like that space that has no rivets. Yeah, and then take a little sample. No, the edge, you need the edge because that's what's going to help you make it look that that's the one that's going to help you keep it straight line. So sample that edge right there, give it a little sampling, a quick option out, quick sample. Cool. Now go take that edge down there and you need to be, yeah, perfect. Click and, yeah, click now and start drawing. It's all there. Every time you hit it and then it goes click, 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 click right now. Perfect. And now start drawing down.
Oh, I let go the mouse.
Oh, it's okay. That's okay.
So I need to resample again.
No, no, not at all. It's still there. So click going down. And see how now the color is being, go move to the right over the boards. Not too much. Don't cover stuff that's good, just try to, okay, that's enough for the boards. You're doing good. And now go sample the top on the edge, on the left edge. And then go and try to redo. Yeah, but with this one, you have to be careful because you have very little space because you're going to hit that shape very soon, right? That whatever shape
So
thing.
About here.
Yeah. So you can only move it a little bit and then you're going to have to see your plus sign is
Oh,
covering. But now go back and grab it again. Now you do take another sample of the left. And then you go and try again only at the bottom. And so on and so forth. Anyway, so click and drag over into the ocean a little bit to get that ocean. But see, here we go. That ocean you have up there
Yeah.
is much lighter colored than
Yeah.
this. So this clone tool doesn't help with that, right? So now you need to go and grab the other tool and grab a bit of the darker ocean and cover it over. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So that it then, without touching the edge, so that it slowly, without touching the edge. See, when you do that, you got that little like push of white. So you have to avoid that. And maybe just go get another line
Oh,
and
probably
bring down, go up to the
here.
top and get that line again.
This one?
No,
Huh?
get some of the, yeah, sample some of that line. If you try to just do only ocean color on ocean and you touch an edge, you get that little poof that you just got of like the edge. So you have to sample the edge again. And cover over a little bit. Yeah, click over there a little bit. And now go and try to cover that bottom edge only a little bit. Make it match.
Not here.
Yeah, you got such a small brush now for some reason. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be small. Make it a bit bigger. Yeah. And then just that bottom tip, but it's looking great. All right. So while I was helping Maysan with this, hopefully
you.
you guys kept working on, see what I meant about, she switched to the clone tool. That's what I was verbally trying to explain, but I did it with her. When the color matching began to not work, then she went over that same area with the clone tool, which gives you the exact same color as the top, which for the banding worked, but then for the ocean, it didn't work. So now she's going back again with the healing tool to bring back a little bit of that original color. But since it's on top of white now, it'll, by the time she's done, not white, light colored ocean over dark colored ocean, it kind of matches up. All right, well, great job, Maysan. How about you guys? Anyone else want to show me something or
How do we clear the sample we took to do another sample?
you only clear it by sampling something else? It never goes to zero. You sample something else and
And
then you
it's
just don't
all-
use the tool anymore and that's all you do.
And it's alt click to sample something?
Yeah.
Or just alt click?
I'll click.
Diane, where did you get your
Because
level?
mine doesn't want to sample.
All right, so share your screen. Barbara, you were saying, where did I get
Where did you get the level?
in the crop tool?
That's what I thought.
It's called straighten. Andrea, you're sharing, right?
Yeah,
There it is. Okay, I'll help you in a sec, Barb.
That's, okay, thanks.
All right, so put you're in the clone tool right now.
Oh, I found it.
Oh, look what's happening. Look on your right, look at your layers.
yes.
You're trying to clone on top of something that you can't see because the top layer is completely full of pixels and your new layer is in the bottom. So anything you can't see. So you need to grab that bottom layer and put
This-
it above.
Angie. Angie.
Good. So now that's what you've been doing without seeing, see? Because you
Okay.
couldn't see it. So you have to get rid of that whole layer because it's all, and start again. So go all the way to the top and get rid of all your clone stamping. Just go all the way to the top and leave your content aware was good. So stop there at your content aware crop and spot healing, whatever you did there. I can't see. Did you need to refill those edges around the two sides or not?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. You're the one sharing your screen. So
So it just.
don't click on anything because you might lose your history. I'm
Okay,
talking about your history. I saw two big spot healing brushes. Did you have to fill in on the edges or not? Go ahead and do it. Leave those two down there, those two spot healing brushes,
okay.
because whatever you fix there on the top, you might need. Okay. And then back out of your house history. And now let's start fixing this. Make a new layer down at the bottom right. Get a little plus sign.
Hold on, I need to move my this other way.
Okay, plus sign. Yeah, click. Perfect. And now it's above where it should be. Good.
Okay,
Now, don't start with this clone tool. That's when you went at the last resort and you're starting from zero. So go back up to the healing brush. Nope, that's not it. Two more up.
this
Yeah.
one?
That one. Mhm. Cool. So now move over to, let's start with the right side, up higher, much higher. Where are you going?
You said the right side?
No, the railing. The railing,
Okay.
we're gonna copy the right side of the railing. So go up high. No, we don't want to copy a tiny little railing because it's not going to work for down here. So wait, come down until you're on this side of that line in the middle. Yes. Now go to the railing right there on the left, move to the left. There you go. So put your mouth right on the left side of this railing. So move it to the right, to the, you're going to pick up that line a little bit more to the right. Yeah. So we're going to try to copy this line down. So Alt click. Okay. Click your mouse.
I did.
All right, now let go of your Alt, and there you go. Now you're carrying a little bit of that, right? Now move
Okay.
your mouse all the way down. In fact, I'm looking at your picture, and your railing actually is all there on the left side. So you really don't even need the left side of the railing. You really need only right side. So let's redo your sampling and go and sample a bit of the side of your railing where it touches the ocean, which is the little missing bit you have there.
Right here.
Again, yeah, so you're going to have to go and take a good sample of that, but from above. I think that you're missing the concept. You need to take an example of what's good. That's not good. So you don't want the sample from here. You want to go there. Yeah, move a little bit further up. You need to copy a piece of ocean plus left side of your railing. So put your mouse to cover ocean and left side of your railing. And now do the Alt and click. Good. Now go and match that so that it looks like it's on the right spot. And yep, but you don't just single click, you click and you draw down. Click and now draw down with your mouse. There we go.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, you need to do a little bit more at the bottom, but there you go. And you had very little amount of railing to fix because depending on how someone did the crop. So that works perfectly well. So there you go. You got yours fixed. Awesome.
I was in the wrong tool in the wrong layer.
Yeah, well, in the case of Maysan, she had more railing to fix and I had to have her switch to the clone tool. But you, in your case, just with the healing tool alone, it did the job. So
Okay.
that worked.
Perfect.
So yeah, the main issue in your case was that the layer that you were trying to work on was beneath what you were seeing. So you guys, if you paid attention to what was happening with her, she had made fixes on a layer she couldn't see. So the computer happily makes the fixes for you. It kept cloning, but it was down there. So she couldn't see what was happening, right? So you need to have your new layer on top. But the computer, as you notice, still did it for her. It still kept doing the cloning. So just because you don't see the layer doesn't mean things aren't happening. So that's where you need to be careful and make sure that your layer's in the right order because the computer is very happy to do the work. But you have no idea what it's doing. Okay. So I'm going to actually switch for a second to the clone stamp to see if I can get the color here to work better like I did with Maysan because I'm not happy with that portion. But other than that, how's everyone else doing? So I'm going to go and copy a little bit from here with my clone tool this time. And I'm going to just drag it across this area where I wasn't really happy with the coloring.
So
Oh, I have a hard brush.
one of the takeaways I'm getting from all of this is that before using the content awareness, I should really be aware of the content. Like if there's something in an area where the computer would sample from that would present me with an issue like this, maybe I shouldn't crop it content aware. Is that a correct conclusion?
Yeah, yeah, and it always depends. If you're willing to do the work, it might be worth it. Or what you might do is you first eliminate this one.
Ah, yes.
You actually get rid of it in reality.
Uh-huh.
Then you do the crop. And then who's going to notice if that was there or not? You know, like if that's the problem, then fix the problem first. And then you
Right.
can, and then the
Right.
computer might have done a much better job of that. You know what
Okay.
I mean?
Yes.
Because that's what got in the way, that little
Right.
thingy.
Right.
So
Exactly.
you find your workarounds, so to
Mhm.
say, and then you work within the constraints of that, you know. And so
Mhm.
yeah, so now there I'm a bit happier with the color because I'm using the clone tool at this point, and the clone tool is instead of the healing brush tool, and the clone tool is keeping it a little bit more honest. So by the time I'm done, I'm going to have a pretty good new railing here.
I wanted to show both of those.
What's that?
How do I get it to show my healing brush and my spot healing brush in the tool column?
How you get it to show you?
Both of the both
Oh,
of the Band-Aids.
Okay, you're
and the
probably
patch.
not in the right, you're probably not in the right workspace. So go over here and choose photography.
Oh, I'm in photography. I'll double check though.
And then go down to reset photography, because then you see both the tools. Watch, you guys, if you're in essentials, for example, then you only see one spotting tool. You need to click and hold to get all your different retouching tools, which are a ton of them, right? They're all under this one Band-Aid. If instead you, and then whichever one you click, you're on, but if instead you are in the photography workspace, then it stretches out and it gives them to you right here. That one, that one, that one, that one. See that?
Okay, I'm in photography. I checked. Now,
Reset
what?
your photography. You want to share your screen because I need to see what's
Okay.
missing.
um,
Go ahead and share your screen. So yeah, you're somehow you're not in photography because I can see that you need to click and hold. So go over to the far right.
yeah,
Yeah.
when I go over there,
There, click on that.
I'm on
You're in
the
photography. Okay,
photography.
go ahead and say reset photography for some reason. Say reset photog. Go to the same
Where's
place.
reset?
Okay, same place that you were just in, choosing photography. Now go 2 down under that gray line
Oh, I see it.
and
Thank
reset
you.
photography.
I
And
didn't
now
know where
let's
the
go
reset
see.
was.
And now you've seen all the different,
Oh, okay,
but
thanks.
somehow you hadn't, your tools
I-
hadn't
I
shifted.
clicked on the photography, but not the reset.
It shouldn't, it shouldn't, okay, the reason you need to reset is because who knows at some other point that you had a photography open, maybe you change your tools or something, and then that's the ones that it remembers up until you reset back to 0, and then it does whatever you need it to do. So, cool.
Okay, great.
Uh,
Thanks.
You're
Diana.
welcome. Vera, your hand is up.
Yes, when I make changes to the image, am I changing the bridge version too? Because it happened with the boy's face, and now I'm confused about exactly what happens to the bridge image after I make my changes in Photoshop.
Yeah, so the bridge image isn't like an image. It's
It's a gateway.
your computer, right? So the bridge isn't like there's an image in Bridge and an image somewhere else. In Bridge, let me share my screen. What Bridge is doing is you're going to your files here on the left side, right? So let me put the spotlight on because in Bridge that's dark. You cannot see my mouse move at all. So you're going to your computer, this PC, this desktop, whatever's on your computer, and seeing what your computer has. So it's not a special place. Bridge isn't a place that holds any different photos. It's just viewing your photos just as if you had been viewing it through your Finder window or something else. You're just looking at the images that your computer holds. So if you open this file, updated it and saved it without creating a new version, then the one version of this guy that you have is now changed and it has lighter colors now. And this one was a save as, so I have both. But if you
That's
didn't
what I did
save
wrong.
as and you only have the one, then the new one now has the light colored eyes and the no pimples and stuff like that. Does that make sense?
Should have renamed it. Yeah.
A save as gives you a copy to then you keep the original, or you can open the original one and turn off all the layers. So if you did it non-destructively, that's the good news. I'm going to double click on this guy who is the light colored eye guy. And as long as I did this non-destructively, I can just turn that all off. And that bottom there is the original. Now you can do a save as, and then you have a version where you take all this stuff out and you're back to having the original. Now that's another good reason to have the non-destructive layers, because had you done this destructively and this was his face now, you're stuck. You've lost the original. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. That's better.
So
Thank you.
that's, as long as you did a good job of doing everything non-destructively, then that still works. Now, in this case, we wouldn't be able to say that, because in this case, we did do the bottom layer destructively. So we don't have the original crooked one. But then we did the retouching of this, which is more tricky. I turn it on and off. We did that in a non-destructive way so that you can keep fixing it or going back and forth. Now, I have a question here on the Padlet. I already saw that, I'm sorry, here in the Padlet. I already saw that Vera posted this guy. This is the last class, by the way, today. Yay, last class of Photoshop. Summer, sorry. So much more to show you guys, but that's the whole point. There's so much more to show you in Photoshop that if you guys want to keep learning more, I don't do the same thing again and again. I'll show you a different aspect of Photoshop each time you join the class. But I do have to complete and grade you at the end of today. So make sure that you're posting your stuff. Because if I come over here and I look for what work you've been doing in class and I don't see any work and you haven't been posting, like I don't see right now off the top anything from Megan. And if you haven't been sharing your screen, then I'm not sure if you took the class. Like I have to give you a grade, and how can I give you a pass if I haven't seen much work, right? So I see something here from you. So please today do as much screenshots and posting as everyone can. So now I'm seeing Megan, like I can go and sort here. I'm seeing Baylor. Make sure that your stuff is showing up here, you guys, that I can look and see you doing the work. And again, it's not about doing it correctly or not. Vera posts this week, she posted like 1, 2, 3, 4 of her attempting stuff. Some more successful than others. That's fine. That's what the class is about. She's getting a pass, even if her doc little thingies don't disappear. Because you know what I'm trying to say? The point is that you're trying, you're learning, you're getting the tools. It's a lot of this is practice, but you are learning. You are putting to fruition that which you're learning in class. That's what it takes. So someone who's already more advanced is going to end up with a more advanced picture than someone who's new, no doubt. But it's not, you don't both get an A because, you know, it's just a pass or no pass. Both of you are applying what I'm teaching in class. Does that make sense? And it's logical that people who are doing this for the first time might have a worse result than someone who's already on his second or third time. That's fine. They don't get a better grade, but don't not try. If you don't try, then I can't grade you and you get a no pass, which doesn't mean anything to you if you're not wanting the certificate. But if you want the certificate, and no pass means you need to take the class again.
What certificate?
What's that?
What certificate?
Yeah, exactly. Most of you guys don't even know that this class is portion of a certificate, that some people do want that certificate. And it's a certificate that you get. I think this one is the digital design skills certificate. I don't remember the exact name because we have so many different certificate names. And to get it, you need to pass the Photoshop for photographers, the digital design techniques class, and then maybe in the Illustrator. Those are the 4 classes. So once you get all those and you've passed them, you get a certificate that you can, for people who are still in the labor market, you can tell your boss to give you a raise, you can get a better job, you put it in your resume. It's a Santa Barbara City College certificate of the classes that you've taken. Even if you don't want it, you are being great. I still have to grade you.
If you've taken them, can you go back to in the office and?
Yeah, if you've taken all of those and you've
Well,
passed
not
them,
yet,
you
but
go to the office, they let them know that you've taken them all and they'll go back and give you a certificate. You need to ideally tell them which classes you took so they can go and find out when
Right.
you took them, and they check and they see a pass next to your name, you get the certificate. Okay. All right. So
another piece of paper for my file.
yay, there you go.
Thank you.
All right.
Dan.
So I just wanted to share that portion because even if you don't care about the certificate, I still have to grade you with a pass, no pass. So in real life, I could go behind your computer and see if you're doing the work. But here, the only way I can see if you're doing your work is if I see it here on the Padlet, unless you're constantly sharing your screen, in which case I go, oh yeah, I saw her work during class. I saw his work during class. But some of you guys aren't sharing, in which case I need to see it on Padlet. All right.
Sure.
So now we have a straightened and hopefully not too bad of a doc. The last thing that I wanted to show you. So anyway, let's go ahead and do this. So here's what you can do with this. Remember, I just told you that there's steps in photos. And if your doc I constantly say, you want to see whether you can do better in the future, right? So if I now flattened this, flattened meaning making that, join that, and it becomes one, then I'm stuck with this that I did. And what if I can do better when I have more skills, or when maybe Photoshop comes up with some other magic tool? So I'm going up to 200%. And I look at this and I know I can go in there and change the color and make it perfect, but it would take me another maybe 20 minutes, half hour that I don't want to keep spending in this class, but I could probably end up making it perfect. Now, when you have a lot of practice under your belt, you can make it perfect too. Right now it's probably really good or good enough. So you don't want to flatten this. And then when next time you come, you need to start with something that right now might be quite skewed. Now, to say the truth, it's hard to get it any worse than this, right? That's true. But if you perchance messed up the dock that was already good, or the ocean that was very good, and you flatten it, then you're starting with having to replace all of that and all of that the next time you come around to do it better. So you're better off completely leaving this as a layered file, kind of forever and ever. When you have a new tool or you have more skills, you try it again. And you then, all you do is turn this off and then try again with whatever new tool or new skills that you have. And then you go, wow, I did so much better this time. That's one example of why not to flatten this. But then what this means is that this needs to stay as a layered file. So I want you to know that the process, and let me create a new white, hold on, I'm going to share here
Worked.
a different screen, which is a basic whiteboard. Okay. Hello. Are you guys seeing the whiteboard now?
Yes.
The blank screen? Okay. So basically the way this works, I've lost my whiteboard tools. Give me a sec, here they come. All right. So the basic it works is you probably start, I'm going to call this one original.jpg. I'm going to go with the possibility that usually you start with a JPEG, even if you start, or raw, let's say, or a raw file.
How did you get to the blank file?
What?
How did we get to the blank file?
No, you don't. I am
Okay.
sharing with you guys this. So you start with an original file, right? That's like, let's just go with the raw to start with. You open it up in Photoshop, okay? So then you open this in Photoshop and add layers to make changes of one type or another. There's so many changes you can make, I won't specify, right? So you open it up in Photoshop and you proceed to do stuff to it. Yeah. Then you keep those changes in a non-destructive changes, I should have written, by saving as a .psd layered file. Okay. So now this becomes, oh, sorry. That's my alarm. Okay, so now you're going to do that. So now what happens is now you basically have the original plus layers.psd, right? So now you have basically two versions of this file. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that gives you that second version of a file. So you have the flattened is there, you save as, which is the question that Vera had. By not saving as, she still has one, right? And it didn't, it saved over the original one. Okay, now, next thing you do is you think about your output, what's your output going to be?
Finished
you're-
photo.
If you're going to print it, and or if you're going to show on a screen. Right? Now, this is a pretty big, actually, I don't like that it's on the same box, so I won't be able to fix it later. So what's your output going to be? That's the next thing that you have to think. So now the question about this is, what are you going to do with this one file? So now you consider and you go, well, one thing I can do is I can print it, whatever size and shape that you want to print it. That's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is that you can put it on the screen. And what does that mean?
Posting it on the web.
Yeah, so let's have some ideas of what printing it might mean. So those are the two possible choices that we have right now, to print it or to put it on a screen. Now, this is very broad, but printing might imply put it in a frame. It might imply put in a brochure. I don't want to put in it, so it might be in a frame just to show. You might put it in a brochure. You might print it on a, give me some
Like
idea,
a t-shirt.
and a t-shirt.
Ooh, silk screen.
What else might you want it for? What else do you do with photos? When I say frame, it could be a frame, it could be a metallic
Put it
print,
in
you
a
know, those
notebook.
where it prints on metal. Anyway, what's that?
Put it in a
Basically,
notebook.
put it in
Business
a,
cards,
what's that?
business cards.
Business cards, flyers, okay? So basically 90% of these are the same thing except for the person who said t-shirt. So I'm
An
gonna put
email.
this, flyers. Let me make a couple of spots here and put t-shirt because that's gonna need a different process. Okay, so these are all examples of printing, meaning you need to have ink of some kind or another, paint of some kind of another, and that's why I separated t-shirt because it's a different process. But you basically need to go from your computer to something that implies some kind of, you know, all of these. I'm just gonna move to all of these as one thing. You need some kind of a way to print all of this through, let's just say that the word, I'm going to put the word ink here. Ink or paint or the kind of inks that you use for printing on a t-shirt are different than what you print these kind of things with and whatnot. But basically this is,
Diane,
the
there
medium.
is like a sheet of paper that you get and you print it and then you iron it on a t-shirt. I've never done it, but I have a friend.
yeah, I actually have.
Have you?
Yeah, but also you could have turned it into something that it's going to be serigrafía. I can't remember the word in
'Cause
Spanish right now.
I've done color separations and silk screen stuff.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say, silk screens. So the reason that, thank you, I was trying to say, I can't remember the word right now, and that's what I was referring to. I couldn't come up with the word silk screen. You could silk screen a t-shirt, and with this you need a slightly different process for printing, but you'd still need in a way this process because it's a different kind of thing that you print to silk screen a t-shirt, but it's basically still putting ink on a t-shirt in a
Yeah.
different process, but it's that same idea. That's why I separated, but I joined it with that. Plan B, someone just said email. So an email is a photo that's going to be seen on a screen, right? But
Right.
be careful, okay? Because email kind of lands in this nowhere land. So give me a second. More obvious screens might be on a website, social media, blog, PowerPoint. I mean, you're gonna put it on a screen, movie. Like, there's all these things, you know, so basically be it on a phone app. I can keep on going, and then I'm going to write email, again, a little bit on its own. Now, I'm gonna, by the way, you can take a screenshot of this, or you can, I'll save this later so that you can write it. But the most important thing is here, the medium you are using here is light. Okay, that's the medium that becomes your, the way that this gets, so to say, printed or published is through light. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So they're the two different mediums. There's the rest of the conversation that we're gonna have today about resolution and this or that has to do with understanding what you do with this layered file, or like you modified, you worked so hard to make it perfect. Now, where do you go with that? Now, the reason I said email is a little bit different because who are you emailing it to? And I'm gonna give the example of my mom. If she's getting it, she will print it. If it's my sister, she will view it. She will say, "Ah," if it's the kids, and then that's it. Got it? Now I'm just kind of laughing, but because that's you get photos from friends and whatever, you go, "Oh, how cute! Oh, how fun! Oh, that's where you are! Oh, that's great!" And that's it. You're never going to do anything more than viewing it. So this is screen. This will have to go to screen, right? But if I send it to my mom, I'm going to have to go and send it back to that area, because the file she's going to need me to email her is going to need to be ready for print. And the file that my sister is going to need is going to be something that you only need to view. So then it classifies as being viewed through light. Does that make sense? I
Yes.
just want to explain. Email is one of those things where, well, what's the end reason that you're emailing? Are you emailing it to your printer to print it? Are you emailing it to your, book publisher? Or are you still just trying to have them view it and never print it? So then if the answer is that they'll print it, then it needs to be treated that way. All right. So, but basically it's going to be shown to the world either through ink or through light, or it's going to stay in your computer forever and no one will ever see it. That's another possibility, in which case it stays as a layered file. And then plan B, you learn a lot more, maybe, and some years later, when you, years later, or new tools appear and you redo something to make it better, right? So that's just an example of something that could happen. So you can always keep doing that because you've gotten better, there's a new tool or whatever it is that needs to happen. So this is just a little on an aside, but by having not flattened it, you have the chance to do this. But had you flattened it, then you're gone. You have to start all the way from zero. All right. And this is a constant. Photoshop constantly gets better, right? So it constantly is going to find that the sky that you replaced by hand, 10 years ago, you love this photo, but the sky never looked good. And suddenly, boom, Photoshop has an awesome sky replacement tool. Now just use that and wow, that's so much better. Now it's good enough to put on your wall, so this is plan B. All right. So other than that, if you're going to print it, or if you are going to go to screen, you have to different considerations. So if you're going to go to screen, this is what's going to matter. And if you're going to print it, then this is what's going to matter. So what's going to matter if you're going to print it is pixel quantity, so to say, or let's just basically is pixel dimensions. Resolution, how many pixels you have, and what resolution they are set to. And then, of course, according to, depending on whatever your final print size is going to be, right? So those are the things that you need to take into consideration to make this work. Versus for going to the web or anything like that, what you're going to want is pixel dimensions again, and final file size. So you're going to have to consider some kind of compression.
Lossless.
So we're going to talk about that. Okay, so now what kind of, so these are the considerations. So notice that nowhere in here does it say the word resolution, right? So if you're going to go to screen, I don't care what resolution this thing is, right? But if you're going to go to print, it's truly primordial. Now, what kind of files might you end up creating? To go to file, I need to move this over a little more of these. I need to have a little bit more stuff, more space over here. So the kind of files that you might turn this into. And go back to the final. This is my last one. I reached the end of my. Okay, so you might end up with a JPEG. That's the most typical one. You might end up with a TIFF sometimes. You could end up with a PDF or even with a .psd. So these are all possible files that you might print from. 90% of the time, what?
No GIF.
No, GIFs are for screen. So these are possible outputs. Let me actually put TIFF in a way. Let me put TIFF at the end because at this point it's much more atypical. On the other hand, kind of file outputs that you might have here would be also .jpeg, .png, GIF, thank you. From Photoshop, this is it. If you created a vector file, and I'm going to just say this because this is not where you normally create vector files. So this is something really left to Illustrator, but you might end up doing an SVG. Although you know what, I'm going to even take this out because it would make no sense from Photoshop to make an SVG. You could. Yeah, there we go. All right. So here we go. So notice that I've put JPEG on both, but other than that, the choices are very different. So
Would you use a DNG anywhere?
you can't print from, I mean, your computer can print from it onto your own printer, but you wouldn't put a DNG, say, into a brochure or something like that. And you can't publish a PNG online because the files are huge, because what matters is the final file size. And let me be specific about that. When I say final file size, this is very important. As small as possible without ruining the quality. Okay, so that is what matters. Your final file size has to be as small as possible, caveat, without ruining the quality. So that's why you were going to play around with compression. Okay. And then resolution over here, we're going to say 240 No, 245 through 300 PPI minimum. All right. I want to quantify that. Now, this whole file I'm gonna save right now and put it in the handouts. But this is pretty much the most typical. There are some things in between that could happen that are different. But if you're not going to do anything with your file, it just sits in your computer as a layered file. Save it, back it up, do nothing else. The moment you're going to decide what to do with it, then you either need to care about that or care about that. And you're going to save it as these or these. So what's the difference? When you're going to go print it, you already know you can print from a JPEG, since you've probably been doing that forever. You open a file, you print it, you go to Costco, they get your JPEGs, they print them, you go to a much better quality printer, you know, you go to a professional printer, using their photo, they get a better solution out of it. But then you work on it, and then do you save it again as a JPEG? Is that necessary? Well, sometimes yes. Sometimes you can give them the PSD. So if you're working on a brochure, you can insert the PSD into the brochure, leave it at that, and send it to print with a PSD. You can also maybe send it out as a PDF. Oh, by the way, there is a possibility that you might, so let's say it could be a PDF for screen also to download. But,
Yeah.
and this is why I'm going to say, but ultimately, it could be printed or viewed. So let me, that one's a hard one. Let me just say PDF for both cases, I'm going to say. What I'm trying to say is there are PDFs that you can make just to be viewed, and then the resolution is really tiny, or you can make a PDF to be printed, in which case the resolution has to be big. So you have a PDF on both sizes, but you would make it differently, right? The PDF would be prepared differently. But that's all. But if you make a PDF just to be viewed, then if they try to print it, it not have enough information, right? So you need to be careful with that. Okay, so
I have a question.
yeah.
I download DNGs for one of my classes, and then I turn them into a TIFFs or
Mhm.
whatever,
Yeah.
PSDs.
Yeah.
What's the reason for sending me a DNG?
A DNG is a digital negative. It's a raw file.
Okay.
So it's
like an NEF or
it's an
a-
input kind of file. So let me add to this that this is your, let me make a new box, actually, not add to it. This is your input. It's an original. Okay.
Mhm.
And then the output is
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
is what happens over here. So someone processed a file and turned it into a PNG and sent it to you. You can then from the PNG open it up again and make it a layered file and start all over again. That's the input for you, but it's not the original input. A PNG doesn't come out of a camera. It's
No,
already
it's a
been
D. It's
used.
a D as in dog. DNG.
Okay, DNG. So here when I said raw file, one example of raw file could be a DNG, okay?
Right.
And
okay.
so when someone sent you that file, they sent you the file that's from scratch, came out of the camera as a DNG. All right.
Thank you.
And then you have to do all these processings to it. Now, the reason I said or a raw file is because a raw file you could process inside of the little Sony camera processor that comes with your Sony camera, whatever, and then you wouldn't go put it into Photoshop. But you can't do what Photoshop does. I mean, you can process an original JPEG in many other stores. I'm teaching you Photoshop, and this is what you would do in Photoshop, right? Now, why would you choose to, why can't you? So here's the thing about PNG. It's supposed to be a file where you can get transparency saved, which the PSD is what it does, right? Like what I mean by that is, what if you turn this off and you just want to print this for some reason? Now, this is a stupid example. It doesn't make sense. Why would you ever want to print this? But if you did, if you save this as a JPEG, this would turn white. It would flatten out. A JPEG would allow this to remain floating. So to save it as a PNG, it would remain floating. And then you could put that on screen. So you can't post a PSD on screen. Let me go to my bridge. I know I have to give you guys a break, but here's an example of something. I'm going to open this for a second. But you don't need to, I mean, if you want to open it, but it's not necessary. But this is a file where the flower has been cut out of its background, right? So maybe I decide to use this as a logo. And then underneath it says, I don't know, Beauty Queen. I don't know, whatever the logo of this company is. So if I want this, this is a layered file, right? And if I want this thing to now,
We're looking at your document.
oh, I didn't change my share. Thank you. Thank you. So here you go. If you need to, this had a background, this example, it's already been cut out. It's a layer mask was used to cut it out. See how there's no mask in here? So it was done in another file. And here I just brought the flower. It's floating. This I could save now as a PNG instead of a PSD. And then if I go to the internet and say that this is the photo of my inn, you know, where I provide spa treatments, and my logo is this, then I could have the flower floating here over this background. And this is, imagine I go to the website of beauty spa, come to my spa, and then the logo floats over the sky, cut out as a flower. Then you need a PNG for it to cut out and float as a flower, for it to do this here. Let me just grab this and go there and put it back in here. Yeah, that's okay. It's warning me it's going to be a mess, but that's all right. Let me go ahead and make this much tinier so you can make it more realistic. Sorry, I see again, resolution issues is so much bigger. So say that this here is the logo of my beauty spa. And today on my website, come on, stop jumping around. Today on my website, when you open my website, this is floating over here and it says beauty spa. And today it's floating over this because it's the middle of summer. But then you look at my website in winter and I have a different photo here for snow-capped mountains and snow on the dock, but this still floats there. So this is not part of this image. You know what I mean? On a website, your logo floats there and then you change the photos that show up on your website during the season. For it to float, it needs to be a PNG file. Otherwise,
Oh, cool.
okay. Otherwise, if you flatten that file, say that I had flattened that file, then what I would have underneath that would be this. This is what that file would look like if it's flattened. It would have a white background. This would be a JPEG, right? It would look like that. If I were to grab this file and flatten it, all of this transparency will turn into basically that of white. So if I brought, that would be the logo with a white box around it, which would be horrible. Okay, so that's what a JPEG would do. If you try to save that file as a JPEG, you would get that. If you save it as a PNG that accepts transparency, then this is the final file that you would get. Okay, so that's the beauty of a PNG and why it's for screen, right? Because for print, if I want to put that photo of that flower in there and flatten it, who cares? It's going to print all on one same layer. The paper is only one print, right? So that JPEG that's going to go to print can have my flower flattened down to it and print it, and that's fine. Because when I don't want that to be flattened, I go back to the original. And this is the point. Many times when one same photo, especially if it's a commercial use, you're going to want to print a brochure, print a flyer, put it on your business card, put it on the t-shirts of the people doing the promotion at the craft fair or whatever. And then you're going to want to put that same photo on a website, put it on social media, email it in your flyer telling people, here, sign up to my newsletter. So a lot of the times that file is going to have to be a bit of everything. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So we're not talking about the photo of your kid who just did something cute that you're going to print out and put in some drawer or put in a frame. We're talking about many uses of the same file. So you keep this original one with the layers. I call it the source file, so to say, right? My original layered file. And then I create one JPEG for printing in full, one PSD. I make a PDF explaining the process that I use to create my beauty products. Then I go and make myself some t-shirts so all the people who represent me have it. Then I make this. So I end up with maybe 5 different export files or 10. So these are output or export files. Now you can keep them all if you want, right? Or you can trash them all after you're done with all that need, keep the layered file. And then 2 years down the road, you go, oh, remember that, mountain scene? How about we use it for this other thing? Oh, cool. So you create a new output file, but rarely you're going to use all of these again. Now, the ones that you keep using for social media, maybe you keep the logo on a PNG, of course, hangs out all the time. You keep all the versions of it. But do you really need to print again that same flyer after the event is over? No, you get rid of that one, right? So these are expendable or dispensable with. You can get rid of them, all the outputs. What you want to always keep is your original one, out of which you keep producing different output files. Does that make sense, you guys?
Yes.
A
So
lot
this
of
is the
sense.
master file. I call it the master file because that's how we had it when I was at the studio and everything had a name. Our master file, that was the one that had to be saved and backed up 3-4 times. Make sure you don't lose it. You spent 2 hours or 25 hours editing it, doing ridiculous amounts of retouching. Boom. You don't want to lose that one. That's your master file. And then one is going to be the cover of the magazine. The other is going to be on social media. The other one's going to be on whatever. Those, once you've used them, yeah, if you've taken up too much space in your computer, you can get rid of them because you can always create another one. Got it?
Yes.
All right. So these could be temporary. This one is your permanent, so to say. You want to hold on to it. All right. So I'm going to stop my sharing now. I'm going to take us back. I'm going to have us take a break. And then when we come back, we're going to figure out, well, how do we do all this outputting that you're talking about? What happens? Where do we do? How come? There we go. That's our next conversation after break. So now, what time is it? It's 11:08. Can someone figure out 15 minutes for me?
18, 23.
24. Yeah.
Okay. See you at 11:23 a.m. Oh, it's 09, so we'll meet at 11:24. All right. You guys.
I can't figure out how to share that.
All right, everyone, come on back. Come back to class. The dulcet tones of the minstrel. Doo-doo-doo-doo. All right. So Monica, I was noticing your note. I posted it on the streets or I posted it on Nextdoor. How
No,
did she?
it was a picture on a lamp post or something.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So we, because I told the story, is that why you,
I was like, oh, that must be her tortoise.
her tortoise, yeah.
There can't be that many large tortoises walking around town.
Actually, no, and this is why I'm saying, I went to the app called Nextdoor or was it on Craigslist, and I posted it on those too.
Uh-huh.
And 3 days ago or 2 days ago, it said large African sulcata tortoise lost. But it's from like up in the hills, maybe
Uh-huh.
a mile and a half away from me. And I was like, what? How many
Huh.
African large sulcata tortoises get lost? But it's somewhere on the back hills here of the
Huh.
Riviera. And I was aghast. And so I thought, is someone going in there and taking tortoises or something? So maybe it was that one, but yeah, but we spent an hour putting everywhere, and then the moment it was found, going around taking them down. So either that was a very short time frame in which she saw them,
Probably, yeah.
or it's the other one that, yeah, it's a large African sulcata tortoise. How funny. That's quite the coincidence. It goes to show those things work, right? And it was interesting because when I read your note right before going on break, like I gave a break and then I read your note. Monica basically saying that a friend of hers saw one of my flyers for my missing turtle. But I was focusing on the fact that my son ran in and to his computer and made that flyer really quickly, and he made it on Photoshop because he had a picture of the turtle, and he didn't go and do it the right way and open InDesign or he just put all this stuff on Photoshop, printed it, and out we went and sent it everywhere. So, this whole process of output and whatnot, it depends also on if you're just going to print it out of your computer. Just about anything prints out of your computer, into your printer, so to say. I just wanted to share with you guys that in the class files and the handouts in the Photoshop shared drive that's in the comp, I went ahead and this is that input and output file. This is what I just created. So if you want to, you can have, it's a PDF that you can print out if you want the reminder or something, meaning I saw some people try to take notes or something, or just, maybe you did a screenshot of my screen, which is fine, but there it is. It's in the handouts, and I called it input and output file workflow. Okay. Anyway, so let me head back to, oh my, did I do that? Yes, I did that. I did that. I showed you that. I dropped that in PDF just to show you that when I click, I forget that in Firefox, when I click on one of these guys, it changes my screen. It doesn't open a new tab, and I've done that just to show you something. Let me stop my share so that it doesn't have to deal with zooming itself to, there you go. The moment I stop my share, it appears. It's amazing how much different the moment I'm zooming, how much quicker the file pops in. All right. Really? Refresh the page and it went out again. Anyway, so so the tools are still coming in, but I'm going to switch to Bridge for a second. So now what matters is when you're going to start on an image is to decide, well, what am I going to do with it at the end, right? So let's look at the different files. So over here, click on these two different hydrangeas that are the same. Click on the first one to the right. Sorry, second one to the right, the one that in the bottom, it's called hydrangea, 6,000 pixels. So when we go over here in the data, yes, it is 6,000 pixels wide. When you look down here at the PPI, it's set at 300 PPI. So it's already ready to go at a proportion where if I wanted to print it, could I believe this number, dimension in inches? I probably can. In fact, yes, I definitely can. If it's a 300 PPI, this can be printed as a 20 by 13.5 print. Pretty big, right? So if I instead, give me a sec, one quick second. Looking at the other files that I have here. This image here that says resolution of smart objects. This one I have it set up for a different conversation, but still, if you look at it's 5,000 pixels wide and it's set at 300 PPI. So again, you can believe the 17 by 11. So you need quite a bit of pixels initially, original picture, to be able to do this. The file that we were just working on, it's set at 240 PPI, but it has much less. It only has 2,400 pixels across. So, but you can still believe it. It can print it 10 by 7. If it were at 300 here, it would probably have said that we can print it around 8 by 5 or something like that, right? So depending on those numbers, how big you can print it. So now let's go grab, I'm looking at this one. Yeah, so I'm looking at this one, and this is a DNG. Okay, DNG. If you notice a DNG, when I go look at the information here, it's showing me the pixels, and you can see it's a really big file in comparison to other ones that we've been using, but there's no guess at its resolution. There's no guess thus at its dimension in inches. It just gives you the dimensions in pixels, 4,000 by 3024. So sometimes you'll find some files that don't have a resolution mentioned, and there's different reasons why. You could have lost the metadata in transit or something like that. But in this case, this DNG is not showing me that. If I go to this CR2, which is also a raw file, it's not showing me that. Okay, so raw files don't tell you their resolution. They're just a raw file that needs to be processed. So they're not ready to go. And so you can decide what resolution you set it at. So here in the metadata, there's no choice made yet around that. Does that make sense? Now, a raw file won't be put in anything other than you could just print it straight to your printer, like on your desktop. But if you're going to do anything with it, you're going to have to pre-process it, process it from some way or another, and then that'll convert it into a different format, right? Here's another raw file, another DNG. And again, you don't see, whoops, I didn't mean to double click. It seems like I double clicked on it. Oh no, it's Photoshop that finally resolved itself. It's opening up. Okay, I was wondering why it went to Photoshop. So anyway, and then there's some other reasons why, hello, my raw file is opening up with that file that I must have double clicked instead of just single clicked. So come on, but I have to wait until it resolves. I'm going to stop my share. Something's really messing up. Let me finish it resolving. Am I on the right Wi-Fi? Yes, I'm on the high level Wi-Fi. So yeah, I guess I'm having issues with this. My raw on that file that I clicked last, the Kara, the woman, it's opening in raw, but my raw is stuck mid-open. And it's not doing anything, it's not letting me escape it. Sorry, an error occurred. Photoshop has encountered a problem and needs to close. All right. Let me close it. At least we understand what was happening. Photoshop was crashing. Okay, let me open Photoshop again. I hope I had saved. I don't know if I had saved my changes on that. I don't know. Maybe I had saved my Photoshop changes on that doc. I hope I had. I don't know if I did. Okay, I'm opening Photoshop again. So while it opens, I'm going back to Bridge. Anyway, so all I've done right now with resolution is have you guys check it when you open files to make sure that they work to modify one against each other. But there's other the other reasons that you want to click on something because you, oh my God, my dog is stop. Sorry, someone was walking in and he likes to let everyone know that someone walked into the house. And, okay, I've never seen that. I don't see me today. Where's my light? I have a little bit more light on me right now. I think at this time of day is the worst because I have the backlight is so dry, so powerful. All right, so let's go ahead and I was at this one at the hydrangea. And let's open this one, double click on it. And this is the one that we had said was already set up at 300 PPI, ready to go to print. Double click on that one. And I'm going to close the other one that I had just for show. All right. Now, in Bridge, you could read all the metadata instantly. In Photoshop, if you want to know that metadata instantly, the only place you have to go is down here on the bottom left. Let me get my little spotlight. Okay. And here it's telling me then that it could print it 20 by 13 and 300 PPI. So basically, if I want to print it, great, nothing else to do. But if I go click on the document size, for example, it's 69 megabytes. And you're like, 69 megabytes. Wait, that's not what it said in Bridge, in case you noticed. So let me go back to Bridge. And this one said it was only 3 megabytes. It's like, huh? How come it says 3 megabits over there? But in Photoshop, it's telling me it's 69 megabytes. Something's kind of weird here. That has to do with the fact that when you have it saved as it's a compressed file, someone already processed it and compressed it. I'll explain compress in a minute. So it saves as a tiny file, which is what your camera does. It compresses photos to make fit many in one little spot. But when you open it in Photoshop, it kind of like displays in all its beauty and glory. And it's telling you that once you work on this image, you're basically working on that much megabytes. It's kind of like, this is the true weight that all those pixels would have if you don't compress them. So that's why the number is so different. Now, we don't care about file size right now here. If this is going to print, all we care about is dimension in inches. And if you have your rulers turned on, you should be able to see here 20 inches by 13 and something. If you don't have your rulers turned on, then Control or Command R turns your rulers on. Otherwise, from View, you can tool your rulers on there. But once you turn them on, it should stay on no matter what file you go. And I think I probably had you guys turn your rulers on in the past, so your rulers are probably on. You would have to forcefully have turned them off for them to not stay on. So now, what if I don't want a 20 by 13 print of this?
Deanna, my rulers are not in inches. They're like in,
Okay, so then
centimeters.
go over here, point to your ruler with the tip of your mouse inside the ruler, right click and change it to inches.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You can change, like if I wanted to go suddenly to millimeters or something, that's a quick way to change it. Okay. So it should be showing at about 20 by 33. Now I'm only seeing it at 33%. So before I work on this any further, before I even spend a second on this file, what do we need to do? I just kind of gave it away.
100.
But yes, definitely Command or Control 1 and decide, is this a photo that's worth working on? So hold on the space bar. And yeah, this one is interesting because this is, I'm gonna let you guys do that. My computer is having a really hard time with redrawing, so I'm gonna let you guys do that. But go ahead and scooch around, and what you'll find that this is a photo that was created with, I do not know if it's real or fake. It seems real enough because when you have a very, very, very low depth of field, all your focus occurs in only one plane. And you're like, what do you mean only one plane? Well, imagine if you could, if in dimension, in real life, right? Imagine that you could, you have a bunch of flowers, right? And you put like a sheet into that bunch of flowers. Like if you could, or a piece of glass or something, the plane along which that piece of paper is landing on, all of that would have focus. So imagine a face. If you put a sheet right here, then my eye would be in perfect focus, but my nose sticks out like an extra inch. I don't know. I can't imagine how long is the nose? Half an, I don't know how much more. So my nose could already be out of focus if I have very, very shallow depth of field. And my eye is fine, but my brows are out of focus. And then suddenly my eye is fine. Then this is out of focus, but then suddenly my one piece of strand of hair here is in focus, and then it's out of focus. And why is that hair in focus if the nose is not in focus? Because it's at the same exact distance from the camera as my piece of hair. Does that make sense? So suddenly maybe my t-shirt has a piece here that's in focus. And why? Because it happens to fit the exact same plane as my eye does, right? But everything else is out of focus. So if you look at this picture, the focus is right there, which maybe the petal right there is at the exact same spot as that petal. And then here you have a little bit of focus. And so the plane of focus here again seems to be pretty consistent with that. This is true in camera depth of field. And then this is out of focus, but then down there, this one's a little bit in focus. So anyway, you know what I mean? There's like that. If you could draw a line from, it's possible that all those places are on the same, line. And then the rest is out of focus, very out of focus behind it, and slightly out of focus in front. So this is an effect that you have to do in camera. You can't really fake this well in Photoshop. There's a way to fake this if you have something that's very in focus, but when it's like this, it's probably really done in camera. So that bears in mind that this might be or could be directly the photo taken by the photographer. Anyway, so how do I find out if I want to make this photograph much smaller? Because I don't want to go lumping. I'm going to go back to the document dimensions. I don't want a humongous 20 by 13 print. That's huge. I just wanted this to be maybe a photo about yay big in the top of my new brochure, right? Or maybe I'm advertising my photos and I make a little postcard flyer and I will put it in here. That's a 4x6. So yes, I'm happy that you can be printed at 20 by 13. Awesome. If I needed you at that size, but I don't need you at that size. So how do I change that size? First of all, let me show you a quick preview. We're not going to print anything, so don't say print, but if you do Control P or Command P or File Print, then this is in Photoshop the way that you see a preview. So the preview is preset to be showing me in a 11, by 8.5, whatever letter size piece of paper, 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. So as you can see, it's showing me that if I want to print this, I'm only getting the little center point because this is a file size to be 20 by 13. It's set, ready to go to be a 20 by 13. So if I try to print it, I can move this around and there's the rest of it. I might have to print 3 different 11 by 13 pieces of paper to get all of it. I could do that, right? So anyway, I'm going to cancel because that's not my intention. I want to resize this so that I can print it as a, say, 4x6-ish. And when I say 4x6, this is because I don't know right now the proportion, how it's going to end up. So I'm going to go up to image size, Alt Control I, or Option Command I. We do this a lot. And when it opens up, it shows up. And this preview that I have here is at 100%. Because they know that that's so important. So even though the bottom, I can't have it 100% because I'll see only a little bit of it. The preview for this is going to be 100%. Now, this box can be resized. So it could be really tiny and you have a mini little preview. I have in the past made it bigger and that's why it shows up bigger. I like to see more of my preview. So you can grab it from the bottom right corner and pull it out so that it resizes itself. But the tools themselves don't change shape. It's just your preview that's gonna add some space to it. And if you want to check different areas of it, you can click around and go, well, how about this? Well, how about that? And yada, yada. Now, in this case, we decided that yes, there's very little bit of stuff that's in focus, but it's purposeful. So if it's the right idea and this is the right photo I want to print, I'm ready to go. So over here, what I need to make sure to do always is to have the resample turned off. Now, by default, sometimes it's on because last time you used it, it was on. And sometimes it's off because the last time you used it, it was off. So it's always going to open the same setting that you opened it, you used it last. So since mine opened off, that means that last time I used it, it was off, right? So before you look at anything else, the first thing you need to do, just to keep your image safe at first, is to turn it off. Start with it off. So meaning unchecked. And now you're going to look at this and you're going to go, okay, so the resolution is already at 300, so I don't need to change that. Let me change the width and height because I need it for a little kind of, not so little, kind of postcard like this. So it needs to be no more than 4 inches in its smallest side, which would be the height. So I'm going to go into the height, click in there and write the number 4. Since width, height, and resolution are linked, the moment that turns into 4, the top goes into 5.999, pretty much 6. Look what happened to the resolution. It's way up to like 1,000. Why is that? Because all of those pixels have to go somewhere. And if I say I want them all to not be this huge print, I want it all to be this print, then it's going to compress many more of those pixels. So 300 pixels per inch gave me that much. If I want only that, then I'm going to have 1,000 of those pixels in an inch. So pixels have no size of their own. They can be stretched or compressed. As long as you have 300 of them in 1 inch, the photo is a good quality photo. But you can put more of them in there. Makes no difference. In fact, I've said for hundreds of years that, I don't know about hundreds of years, but I've said for many, many years that it makes no difference. But now there are digital printers which operate very differently than the ones that you have on your desktop and supplement it differently. And those you can definitely take advantage of more than 300 PPI. They could find some subtlety. The printer can. What's at question is whether human eyes can really even see at that point any difference, because there's a point after which you just don't, there's only so much detail you can capture. So if you have to print something at 100,000 DPI, well, whatever, that's fine. The printer will just figure out how to parse it. Now let's say okay to that. And there's no change in here except for look at your ruler. Now you have a 6:4 image. See that? The ruler is telling you that. And the next thing that's telling you that if you do, again, the Control or Command P for the preview, then there's my preview of this image. In an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, it's going to print out yay big, which my brain tells me is about right for 4 by 6, right? Does that make sense, you guys? So we have resized. What we've done is we've resized this image. When you resize an image, so I'm not going to print, but that's what you do. When you resize an image, there's no quality loss. There's no change over here, down here. Now it tells me it's a 5 by 4 inch image at 1,000 PPI. But if I go back to my document sizes, it's no change. It's still 69 megabytes, right? Like no change. Nothing has been affected. There's been no destruction of pixel quality. If I look at my dimensions up here, no matter what I do to it, if I decide now it's 69 up there, I have 6,000 pixels. If I decide, well, now I have a different output. Now I liked it so much that I'd like to put it in my 8 by 10 frame. So I'm going to go to the width and I'm going to put a 10 in there. I discover the proportion won't fit for my 8 by 10. So I'm gonna have to put 8 in the height. And then I'm gonna have to, when I print it, cut off almost to, 2 inches to fit in my 8x10 frame, because that's the proportion of my original image. Does that make sense? 4x6 fit kind of well, but 8x10 doesn't, because proportionally it's a different shape. So I'm going to cut some out, but now my resolution is down to 508. But what remains completely untouched is the actual pixel information. Same amount of pixels, same file. So all you're moving around is metadata that now, if I say okay to that, now I have, there's my 12x8-ish. And if I try to print it, control print, come on, you didn't do that, did you? I changed my. Okay, I'm having issues again with my display. Stop my share while this resolves itself. Come on, don't do that. Anyway, if you do the control print on an 8.5x11 piece of paper, an 8x12, you're gonna end up almost there, but one side should be there and the other one should be filling it. I hate when this thing happens to my. These shortcuts. All right, now I can share again. All right, there we go. So what I was saying is that if I do go ahead and do control print or command print or file print. Sorry, I'm frozen. Hello. Okay, it wasn't frozen. Since my piece of paper is portrait wise, most of it gets stuck. If I shift to say, I want to see it and print it in landscape, it's not responding. Then you can maybe get it to, there it is. So you can get to print most of it, right? A little bit of white space on top and bottom because it was only 8.5 pieces of paper, but it cuts the edges. All right, so I'm going to keep canceling. All right, so that's how you resize without affecting the image whatsoever. Your hand is up, Barbara? I can't hear you. I still can't hear you.
Okay. I just closed the photo again, but when I opened it, it was different, a different size than yours, a lot smaller.
Oh, there's 2 of them. You have
Okay.
this one on the left, which is 640 pics, and this one that's 6,000. So
Oh,
open
which
the
one
big
did
one.
you open?
The big one, the 6,000
Okay,
pixels.
that was why I kept closing it and opening, going, what did I do?
But this is an example, you guys, of 2 photos output for 2 different output for 2 different needs or uses. Okay,
Do I
so
leave
this
as
one
is,
here, what's that?
or do I leave as is or assign a profile?
Yeah, no, just leave as is.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. Whatever computer settings you have for your profile, just at this point, we're not talking colors, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
All right. So that's what you do when you want to resize.
Okay, I
Now,
understand.
For better or for worse, when you do this, right? Go ahead and lower your hand so later I don't think it's a new hand, please. When you do this, I'm going to go back to image size. The only negative of this process is that here you have a file that could technically, and to see the full size it could be, I'm going to go to resolution and type 300 again. A file that could technically be as big as 20 by 13, or God forbid I go for 240. It could be even 25 by 16, right? So I'm going to leave it as 300 as our golden number, but it could be really big. That means there's a lot of information in that file. And when you send this to print, and this is the part that I can't do here at home, but at school, we have an old printer. So it works really well because as a sample, I'll send this file to print. And the printer's like chugging. And like I've timed it like 3 minutes later, finally the print comes out. What's the printer doing? It's processing all the information I sent. And then it prints out maybe a little tiny photo because by then I had resized it to maybe show me only 2 by 1. So it's at 3000 ppi. It doesn't matter. It'll take just as long to print a little 2x1 image of this hydrangea as it'll take to print a 20x13, because I'm sending all the information to the printer. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's the negative of doing this. Now, if you truly are going to print one thing on your home printer, go for it. Take as long as you want. Go have some tea and come back, right? But if you're going to put this inside of a brochure that then needs to be printed, 10,000 prints or whatever, the last thing you need is a whole bunch of processing. So what you want is to right size it. So what does right size mean? Well, you're going to want to get rid of all that extra pixels that are unnecessary beyond the 300 pixels, right? So let's go back and put 300 in the resolution in case you haven't yet. And now to right size this, we're going to have to dump pixels. I'm going to have to just get rid of a bunch of pixels that I do not need. So I'm going to resample. And this is where things get hairy, because now you're truly doing a completely destructive modification. This is the moment when your things become really scary, which is why I said at first you undo this and you can change all the numbers all you want, and this just doesn't affect anything. Now, instead of resizing, when you do this, you are resampling. All the pixels are going to be shifted all over the place. And now to get our little 4x6, so I'm going to go into the width, I'm going to say 6 inches. So now to get my 4x6, and let me actually, for some reason, turn into 5x6.
And
There we go.
you still want to leave it on automatic?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, the bottom still stays at automatic. All I want now is 300 pixels resolution. I put the width at 6, which means the height is going to be basically 4. It's a tad different. And why you leave it at automatic, there's different ways that the computer can resample, but unless you are one of those experts that understands the science of each one of these photos and you want to take time printing out 10 and doing samplings or whatever, the computer is set to choose the one that for this image would work better. So you don't know which one it's choosing, but one of these is better for these flowers, and others better for straight lines, and others better for whatever. So you just leave it on automatic, and Photoshop does a good job of choosing the one that for this image is going to be the better method. And now let's go up here and look at what happened to my pixels. Where I used to have 6,000 pixels, now I have 1,800 pixels. And my file size, which was 69 megabytes, is down to 6.1. It's actually, the numbers are so similar, but don't get confused. We went from 69 megabytes to 6 megabytes. We're dumping the majority of this file's pixels by doing this. Got it? This is as drastically destructive as could ever be. Yeah. Let's say okay to that. Now it did shrink, and it's showing me up here it's only going to be C6%. Now I can go and do Control-1 and Command-1 and get it 100%. And yeah, 100% fits fine in my image at 6x4 because I have lost so much information from this file that's ridiculous. Now I print it out, I put it in my brochure, I'm totally happy. Then I go over here, I go to image size again, and I go, you know what? This is such a great photo. I'm going to put it on my business card. So I want a really good quality photo of this hydrangea on my business card, but my business card is 3x2. So this photo is going to, it's 2.5 wide. So the width of a business card is 2.5 inch wide. So I'm going to go put 2.5. And so 2.5, I keep moving my mouse. It's in a very sensitive position, so it keeps changing. 2.5 by 1.5. That's the size, that's the proportion of a business card ish. So then I say, okay. So I get a very high quality, beautiful business card printed out. And here's an example of my husband's business card with a really high quality photo. So you want a good print. You don't want a bad photo. So you reduced it. And this is called downsampling. Downsampling. Computer downsamples beautifully. It figures out, and it's giving you a very tack, sharp, good quality downsampled image. But your file, if you look at now, dimensions wise, what I have left, I have a 1 megabyte photo only. Okay. So we went from 69 megabytes to 1 megabyte. And how many pixels I have, I don't know, let me go back to image size. And it's at 750 pixels total. So I've gotten rid of thousands and thousands of pixels. All right. The good and the bad of this, you should never do this process on your final file, on that master file, because if you make a mistake and save this right now, then you are absolutely forever after completely, let's just say it honestly, screwed. Because if you save this file and close the file, there is no history that will undo it. Right now, we can still go back to history and go back to the beginning. But you should always open up when you're ready to do all of this output work. My whiteboard.
Make a copy.
When you are, yeah, when you're ready to go and start this output work, one thing you should consider, and I'm going to add that here. Make a copy or, save as. To make a copy, and let me bring that information in here. You should save as to make a copy. Okay. And maybe I should find a way to change this into a different color. No, I already wrote in this color and it doesn't want to change. Let me see if I can change the color of this text. There we go. Right. So you save this one. Let me see there, I guess somewhere in here. This is your original. You save as to make a copy, and then you start this whole process of resampling. Let me actually add to that then. Before resampling or resizing or compressing, which is something we're going to do that I haven't talked to you about in order to put it in screen. Okay, so basically, let's move this one over here. So in this moment, what you need to do is you need to first do that so that then you begin all that process. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm going to update this in the handouts, but if you want to just do a screenshot so I don't have to download it again, this is basically it. So you want to keep this one intact. In a hurry, and I was working in a studio where everything's in a hurry, everything's due yesterday. We got so good at it, we would know perfectly how to do this to the final file and the last minute not save. But when you're in a hurry, every now and then, once every blue moon, you'd hear a squeal and a wail from somewhere in the studio, and someone had finally saved over the file that they had just resized. And it's like days, weeks, or how many hours of work gone down the drain. So if you are about to start that process, just save as first. You've got your original untouched, and now every mess that you make from now on happens to this copy. Okay. All right. So let me share the other screen again. All right. So now let's go to image size again. And here's the problem. We ended up with a 1 megabyte file, and then we go, oh, now we need to print it again at, what was it that it could do? 20 by something. So anyway, so I'm going to go up to the width and I'm going to put 20 again. So it goes back to the original 6.8. It was 20 point something, but that's near enough to give me the 68 megabytes. It's back to 6,000-ish pixels. It's not exact, but I don't remember exactly what the number was. And so now it's going to resample, which is this case, it's upsampling, right? It's going to add the pixels. So what could be the problem there? I wonder. Is it going to upsample? And given that this is such a weird photo, it might be hard to tell what happened, because it's already such a strange out of focus photo. So this is I've never done this work with this example, so you guys might not see it, but it's a mess. Oh my God. It's not even such a mess because this photo was all a huge blur. If this had been a face, the whole face would be this disastrous right now. It would all be, it's funny how whatever photo you choose to do this with really makes a difference. So let me do this really quickly with this guy, the boy that needs cleanup. It's a real face. Okay. So now I'm going to go to image size. I'm going to reduce. So I'm going to resample. I'm going to make this be only like a 1 pixel's width. I'm going to say okay to it. And now I'm going to go ahead and back to image size, and I'm going to try to make it back to being, I don't know, 10. I don't remember how much it was. And I'm going to say okay. So now I just did that, and see the quality now, how I've messed it up. Can you tell? This is 100%. This is the quality of this guy right now. It's a disaster. On the flowers, you can't tell because it was so blurry anyway. But this is what he looked like in quality to start with. You could see every pore, every hair. And after I resampled down and resampled up, this is 100% now. Because the computer has to invent this kid's face now. It invented the flower relatively well because, you know, there was almost no detail anywhere except for in a couple of patches. So now lesson learned, I'm never going to use that photo again for this example. But now to upsample, the photo doesn't exist anymore. So basically what Photoshop is doing, okay, so I have a pink little pixel here. Let me put more pixels around it. I have a green one here. Let me put green ones around it. I have a black one. So it's recreating this face. It happily does it. It'll upsample for you. But this is as good as it's going to go. And had I tried to go to 20, inches, then forget it. It would be a bit less of a blur. So this is now the quality of what should be this quality. All right. So basically, yes, do downsample. I'm going to save changes. This is the important part where I could mess this photo up forever. I'm going to say, no, don't save the changes. Yes, you can upsample, but no, yes, you should. I'm going to Command 0 to Control 0 to fill my screen. Yes, you should be comfortable knowing that Photoshop is going to downsample really well, but it doesn't upsample really well. And oh my God, it actually, this photo doesn't look that bad given how much I upsampled it, but truly it's because this photo is what it is. In fact, I would dare say that if I were to go and compare now, I'm going to go what I just did and compare the original one. See, there's smooth transitions and it's flowy, and this is the one that we just got where it's kind of messed up. But given the subject matter, it's not as bad as it could look. Anyway, so that's why you want to resize and change resolution and everything without resampling first. So let's say that you had started. So we've never gone under 300, but say that you open a file and to start with, it's 72, right? Because when you take a picture out of the camera and you open it up straight, it shows up as 72, its resolution. Like camera sets the resolution at 72 and the photo you see says, "Ooh, I can be printed at 80 by 55 inches. Someone's tapping in the background of someone. Let me mute. There's an iPad. It's making noise. There you go. So whenever you open a photo straight from a camera, the resolution will be set at 72, period. And it'll have a humongous number here, right? Of all the inches it can be printed at. But that's the fake part. That's what you know is not true. So with resample off, the first thing you should do is retrieve the 300, see what it will really land at, and then go, oh, but that's still too big or that's not big enough. Now, if you had wanted to print a 44-inch pixel, what you're discovering is, oh, I can't do that, right? This is just not doable with this, because if I want 44-inch frame at 300, I only get 20. Doubling it up with upsampling is going to ruin the quality of the image. So that's not doable. There's a plan B through RAW that I'm not going to get a chance to teach you this time. Depending on what class I teach, I sometimes am able to or not. But there's a trick in RAW where you can double the resolution of the image. But for now, let's just say if this needs to be printed as a 44-inch print, it's no, forget it. All I can get out of it is 20. All right, let's say cancel. And let's go back here in history and start from the very beginning again, so that we don't have our messed up image and we have our beginning one. Now I was going to show you how to reset this for screen, but given, well, let's try. It might not be the best example for screen because of the same thing that just happened, but we'll continue with this one because it's the one I've been using. So now I'm back to the beginning. I have my big old file. It's been unblemished. And in the whole process of outputting, now I need to output to a web page. Okay. It's going to be on my top of my blog post. It's a blog post about gardening, and it's just something like that, right? So I need to put this photo up. So let's go, and instead of opening image size, where we could technically do this in image size, but one thing that's going to happen is we won't be able to compress from here. And you'll see now the need for compression. So technically you could change the size, the pixel size here, but it doesn't have all the tools you need. So instead, we're going to go up to edit, and we're going to choose, sorry, hello? Edit. Oh, file, sorry. I'm a Mac person, and the top two layers are always a bit different. And so you're going to go to file, not to edit. And here we're going to export. So hang out here for a second, find file, export. And there's so many different ways to export this file. And we're not going to even like begin to go through all of them. But let's just go to the export as, where we can choose what we want to do for this thing. Okay, so this is an output we're outputting now. Let me say one thing about the export. It's also non-destructive. So if I'm going to be doing image size, it's destructive. So what I said is you need to save as and work on a copy. But say that you're only exporting out instead of changing the image size because you're not going to print, then you can do it on the original file, because this is not going to be done to the file. It's actually going to leave your file intact, and it's going to create an exported version that's small. Does that make sense? So by default, though, in case you're doing both and in case you forget, just try to do this work on a separate copy. But this version of the tool is not destructive. All right. So this is the photo that you have right now. It's showing you a preview. Let's go and click on 2 up so that you can see what you want now, the photo that you've got, and the photo that you will be doing, how it's going to look when you've processed it. So what are we going to export it at? Let's go over here to the file settings. So if my original is this big, what do I want to print it? Do I want a PNG? I'm going to click on here. Do I want a JPEG or a GIF? Those are the 3 files I can export as. Remember the thing I just said? So what's the difference between them? I already told you. The PNG is if you want transparency in your final image. Do we need transparency in this final image? No, we don't. So no need for transparency. Now, why would I not want it? Why would I not want it even if I don't want transparency? Because I can turn the transparency option off if I don't need transparency. Well, it's because the final file of a PNG is going to be bigger than a final file of a JPEG. And what did I say was the most important thing when you're going to the web? File size. So if you've got to choose one or the other, file size beats. If you don't need the transparency, then JPEG beats PNG. There's a new format that's been tested that's actually, for the first time ever, there might be a competition for JPEG, but JPEG has been around from the beginning of photography, and it's still the best format for compression at this point. But it looks like there's a new one coming up that, and I don't remember the name right now, that is beginning to be the first one that is real competition for JPEG. So we'll see in the future what happens. But for now, anything that goes to the web that doesn't need transparency should be saved as JPEG. Now, over here it says quality, good. Yeah, great. What's the word quality good mean? Well, it means how much are you going to compress it? So, oh, this is going backwards. Let's cancel for a second because I didn't set up the previews correctly. Go ahead and say cancel because I want to show you how to use the previews correctly. Say cancel and then go back to file, export, and go back to export as. So remember, this is the process you do for anything that's going to go to any level of screen. You want to do an export as. So over here, the reason I want the 2 up is so that we can compare the before and after. So we're going to keep this one. Oh, that's why it's doing that. Preview. It's not letting me keep the preview as my original. Hold on. When I go to 2 up, it's funny, it's not letting me compare original. It only gives me the already compressed, and I want not the already compressed. This is not working the way the old one used to be, where you could see the before and after. Now it's already giving me the version of it were a PNG. Anyway, select number 2, and what we're going to do with this one is we're going to make a JPEG. So sorry, go back down here and make a JPEG. Now, it's so tiny, we won't be able to see the quality. So if you want to up here to make it show you at 100% so that you can really see the quality, you can do that. Now you want to see only a teensy little weensy piece of it, so you might want to make your file a little bit bigger. But basically, you're going to compare before compression to after compression. So find some spot, in this case, that has some, like up here where you see some neutral space and a bit of detail of the petal that might work. All right, so let's go over here. I want to have select the second one where you're going to start doing your compression. And let's look at the quality. What happens when I choose great quality, great quality. Like I want the best quality ever. Then if I look at my final file size, it's telling me that I'm going to end up with a 5.5 megabyte file. If I compress it at great quality, meaning it's the least amount of compression I could possibly give this photo. That's what it means by great quality. It's very little compression. And from a file that I think when I started said that it was going to be 14 megabytes or something like that, here's the PNG. What I've done with the minimum amount of compression is get it down to 5 megabytes. That's humongous for the internet. Before I continue the conversation, Vera, your hand just went up.
Yes, my, where it says transparency, it just says smaller file. It doesn't show quality like yours.
Yeah, because you need to shift to JPEG. You're still in PNG mode. So click on PNG and shift to JPEG.
Okay, that did it. Thank you.
Got it. You're welcome. And then on the good or whatever, you can go to great. So basically, we're going to start to see the difference compression makes. And as I said, I hope this photo shows us the difference. But I'm going to say that the maximum amount of file size could be for the internet, the max file size would be 1 megabyte. So I just put it in the chat. Now, even that's exaggerating because 1 megabyte is equal to 1000 kilobytes. So in the chat, no, not 100. I'm missing one. You know, I can't delete my chat. So it's equal to, no. So ignore that. I did not mean to say 100 kilobytes or you're going to get all confused. It's equal to 1000 KB. Okay. So 1 megabyte, let me just put it all together. 1 megabyte is equal to 1000. And I almost did it again. I just wanted to put 100. Or did I put 10,000? I put 10,000. 1000 KB. Okay, in the last chat, 1 megabyte is 1000 kilobytes. So, oh, I see another hand up. An iPad's hand is up. Who's that?
Hi, it's Andrea.
Yes, Andrew.
So where you have up for quality in a drop-down menu where it says good,
Yeah.
great, whatever, I have a slider that says quality and it goes from low to high.
Yeah, so you might have an older version or different version of Photoshop. That's how it used to come. I prefer the slider, but now the slider is gone and people have complained about it because they want the slider back. So
Maybe
If you-
that's what they did because I just bought my version. from-
yeah, so remember I have an older version than you.
Okay,
And so they first did this to it and people were really upset. So now they put that slider again. Because here, just those words mean nothing. Basically, this is equivalent to the 100% or 10 quality, and then this would be 80%, 70%, 70% down to 0%. You know what I mean? But here they put words, which is fine for neophytes, but for people who are using Photoshop are considered people who are experts and they don't like the jump. If you don't like the jump between poor and fair, you can't go in the middle. Versus with the slider, you can put it right there in between poor and fair. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
that which they had gotten rid of, they added back. So those of you who have a slider, thanks for reminding me that because I didn't know it was, I didn't notice that. Then use the slider. Great would be pushed all the way to the right where it's your highest quality. All right, so now, so if this photo has to be not only 1,000 kilobyte, not only 1 megabyte, which is 1,000 kilobytes, from 5.5, it still needs to get much smaller. But what else can we change? Well, before we change any more in the compression, one thing we need to change is the pixels. And I forgot to do that first because we're going to go and our website designer is going to say, well, this photo at 6,000 pixels is going to come in like this big in the web, right? It's going to be like, you're going to see 2 petals. And they're going to say, for this blog, what I need this photo to be is I only need to be, say, 2,000 pixels wide. Say that we use the number 2,000 pixels. So first, we're going to resize, but this time, instead of with the word inches, we're going to resize with the pixels. So we're going to say, okay, let's say, that's 2,500. That's pretty realistic. Let's say 2,500. Hit the tab. Don't hit return or enter or it'll export. Hit the tab to go to the next number and that will calculate itself. So now basically it's telling you that it's going to be scaled down to about 42%. And now I'm going to go up here and bring it back to 100% because I really need this to show it in comparison. Oh, wow. I don't like this, that it makes you, shows them both. See, this is a new version of this box and I can't see the 100% on both of them, huh? I need to see it 100%. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and see this at 100%. And so I just wanted to see that portion where you see the background of it, because that's when you start seeing the problems with compression. Right now, we're not compressing much, so there's no problems. Okay, so now we've made it 2,500 pixels only. We took a huge chunk of pixels out. So let's go look at my file size, my resulting file size. Whoa, it's already at 1.6 megabytes. It was 5.5 when I had all my pixels. By taking those out, I'm down. So we took about half of them pixels out, but the file compressed, it got much smaller than about half the pixels. It got down to 1.6. So these are not directly related. You know what I mean? From 5.5, it went back to 1.6.
Mine's at 2.82 kilobytes.
Well, then you don't have this at great, or you did, or you put 250 instead of 2,500. Something is different.
Okay.
Or maybe you're starting with the file that you hadn't gone back to.
No,
its
I
original
didn't have it
size.
at great. That's why.
Oh, okay, great. So now, guys, is it down to 1 megabytes?
No.
Not yet, but we're much nearer. That said, 1 megabyte is the extreme max. So like if you're going to have a photo that you're a photographer and you truly want to show how great your photography is and you really don't want to compress it much, you might put a little button that says click here to see full size, and people would click on that little button and then this big thing would open up and you'd see it in its full glory, but people would know that a big file is about to come down and that's why they're going to wait for it to come down. But a 1 megabyte file is still really big for it through the internet to come down onto your device. And some people, a lot of people now are looking at these things on their phones. They might be walking on a park, so they don't have Wi-Fi. So it's a lot of data to bring in a big file in. So your goal is for the entire web page to be not more than a megabyte. But a web page, you can scroll down and it has a lot of images. So if you add up all of that code plus all of those photos, you don't want to pass 1 megabyte. That's why I'm saying the max you want is 1 megabyte. But in reality, as small as possible. So can I make it, what's, you know, as once I get to 1 megabyte under that, I'm going to go to, can I make it 500 kilobytes? Can I make it 40 kilobytes? Can I make it 20 kilobytes? Like the smallest, the better, without losing quality, I can get it. The better it is going to be to post. So now is when I start playing around with the compression. I'm going to go over here to the word great. And let's see if I compress it to the uttermost max absolute, like squish it down as much as I can. I'm going to go to very poor. And here's my compression result at 100%. And here's my original. Now my file got really tiny. It's only 57 KB now. You see that? It's like, yay, I got it really tiny, but look what happened to the quality. That said, now I'm looking at it 300%. Let's go down to 100%. Okay, thank you. So at 100% now, this is what happens to it. The other one was up at 300%, so I was seeing pixels, so that's not the point. You have to see it 100% always. So this, in this area that's detailed, it's looking good. Details look better in compression. But if you try to see the little top corner where you just had green, look what happens with smooth colors. When they get compressed a lot, they get banding. So this is a great lesson. I thought this one would be a good photo, but it is, in that where detail is concerned, you can compress a whole bunch. So if this photo was just of the flowers and it was, none of it was smooth, then you can compress it like crazy and get a tiny little result and it'll still look good, right? Because you're going to have this stuff hiding the banding. But as soon as it starts getting smooth, which it did in the background of this image, where there's smooth gradients, a sky, right? Something that has no detail, then the banding has nothing to hide it. And then you can see those bands of colors. Okay, so this is the extreme most compression. What it does is it grabs all the colors and it goes, okay, all my thousands of greens, let me turn them into 20 greens. And then you see this kind of line that looks like a terrain map or something. So you want to decide in between very great and very poor, where is your compression not giving you banding or artifacts? And that's the minimum size. So you're kind of like playing around back and forth, back and forth. And I know class is almost over, guys, hang in with me. So let's go and start going up. And I go to poor. And then, okay, much better, but I can still see banding. Can you? I can still see little lines over there. So let me try again and we go to fair. So if you have the slider, maybe we went to 25% to 15%, 25%, 33%, 50%, you know, somewhere in the middle. All right, so that's much better, but I can still see, you know, and of course you've got to compare to the real thing, which is on this side, but it is not compressed. And here's the compressed side. And when you click on here, it tries to go to that spot, but here's the compressed side. And I control, and I see that to this. So I can still see banding. It's much better, but I can still see it. So then I click on this one and I go back to and say, okay, good, which would be about 50%. So to the untrained eye, this one might be good enough. If I'm trying to show you what a good job I'm doing of compression, I can still see banding if I pay attention. But to someone who just kind of casually looks at the photo, that probably is okay-ish. So what size is my file? 144 KB. So I went down, you know, from the original image that I had 69, whatever, 1,000 megabytes down to 104 KB. So I could, depending on my purpose, this could be good enough since most of the flower has, most of the image has lots of petals and only a little bit of this, that might work. But if I want to be picky, I'd probably say very good. And now that's truly smooth. And if I got a 290, 280 KB. So somewhere between this one and this one, which is why this is limiting, those of you who have a slider. So maybe one is like 70% and one is 60% and one is 50%, somewhere in between those you would probably find a spot where you feel comfortable with the banding. In the good, I still see banding. I'm bugged by it, so I'm going to go to very good. And in this case, I can't really choose the in between. So that's what I'm going to live with, my very good at 270. And that's the one that I'm going to output. Okay. Now, the good news about this thing, and I'm going to just show you this really quickly because I know that that's my alarm saying that class. Oh, does it end at 12:45 or at 12:30?
Oh, 45.
Oh, phew. Something on my alarm just said ends at 12:30. And I'm like, got it. So I've got 15 more minutes. Phew. I was like, I'm not having time to finish this. Okay. So here's the good news. Remember that I said that sometimes you do, I'm going to share my whiteboard again, that I said that you need the photo sometimes to be shared or to be, you need the same image and you need to output something for screen. So what we just did is to go to, for example, to my blog, and I'm going to output a JPEG. Right? So I check my final file size as small as I can make it without ruining quality. So now you understand that, right? Why you compress more or less depends on how your photo is reacting to that compression. If you're seeing a lot of detail, you can compress it like hell and no one can see the detail being messed up. But if you have like the photo of that photo of the dock into the sky, that sky is going to be like tattletale. You will not be able to compress so much because that's going to have a lot of banding because there was a lot of tones of blue in that sky. Got it? So you're going to have to compress that one way less than what you can compress this hydrangea photo. Yeah. So it's a one-on-one kind of situation, how much you can compress. So you output this one and you're going to have it turn into a JPEG and you're going to use it for your blog, right? And then you're going to go, oh, but I also need another one that's going to be small. No, maybe this one's for your website at that size, actually, at 2,500. And then you need one for your blog where you're just going to decorate something and it's going to be about yay big instead of like your full page, right? So this is for your entire top of your header. And it's like this beautiful flower and your work with gardens and stuff like that. And then you go, well, I need another one though. I need the second one to be like only yay-ish big on top of my blog. So you can output another one from this same exact spot. So I'll go over here and I'll go, okay, I want that one, but I also want to, and you click on a plus signs here. And you want another one to be output. So the first one is going to have that size. And then the second one, you're going to give it half. So you're going to make it. So if the first one is going to be 2,500 pixels, the second one is going to be half of that. So what's half of 2,500?
1,250.
Okay, 1,250. Okay, so the second one is going to come out that size. So you might just go ahead and let that be. Do you want to? So suffix on the file is going to add that little bit to it. So you know that it's half as big as that one. So now you've created two. So that's why they created this export page so that you could create a lot of different versions. Maybe you wanted a PNG out of this. Maybe also you want a GIF, like you export many different ones. Right now, all I want is two of the same file size, the same compression, and I'm going to now go down and say export. So I'm done. Down here, I say export. And it tells me where do you want to save. And I'm going to go to my good old My Drive, Photoshop summer classwork. Actually, I'm going to back up. I'm going to go to My Drive and I'm going to put it in download summer so that you can see the result. Okay, I'm going to select that folder. And I'm going to say, that's where I'm going to export to. All right, so let's go look at that folder. And go to Bridge. And here are the files that I just exported. And actually, oh, I didn't complete the second one, so I got this one here. So the only one that exported because I didn't complete it because I was nervous because the class was finishing is the second one. see how it added the suffix of at 1/2 size? So when I select it, this is the one I started with. And this is the exported one. That the name now is kind of wrong because it's not 6,000 pixels anymore. So I'm going to change that. But it's telling me that it's one photo at half the size. So really the one that exported, because of that thing that I did last minute without saving it, is the one that's only 1250 pixels, okay, which is the second version, the small version. So I can go over here and can change the name of this one. Let me go ahead, and I like to label the file with the right amount of pixels. So I'm going to say that this is 1250 because I'm not always reading the metadata. And that reminds me that this is not the one that's full quality. And then I like to add and put what number quality I gave it. And this was, I chose very good, which is usually that would translate into about 60 quality. So I put a 60xq. I'm never going to use a good, very good, fair, whatever. But in this case, I'm guessing that that was about a 60 quality. So I just changed the file name to make it work for me. And so how I did that, and you can right click and rename right there to change the name. Or I just basically clicked on that name and clicked again, and then that lit up and I changed it that way, just to know that for sure that's the one. Because if you don't change the name, then it'll be hard to distinguish which one is the right one, right? So this is the one that's the full quality. This is the one that now I went down to 1250. And then here I have a small version at another point that I output at 640 pixels, so it's even smaller. Okay, so that one's 42 KB versus this one is 120 KB, and this one was 3 megabytes. Does that make sense? So now you have 3 different photos for 3 different needs and uses. And when we were doing the save as, we never saved the one that was going to be a 4x6 300 PPI, whatever, and you would have seen another size. So you can have many versions of it. The one you want to hang on to, and what I tend to do then is I tend to the one that I know has all the layers or all the changes. Now this one doesn't necessarily have layers, but I tend to put a big old master and underscore at the beginning of its name. So I know from then on that that's the one that I'm going to not dump. If I'm going to dump any, I'm going to dump all the other ones. That's just my naming convention because I adopted it from the studio where the master file was the, don't get rid of this one, right? You can call it whatever you want, but that reminds me that that's the one that I'm doing all the changes. It so happens I didn't do any color change or whatnot to this one, so it's still a JPEG, but usually a master file is going to be a PSD. All right. So, questions?
I'm not seeing the new file you put in Bridge yet.
There it is.
I know it's not showing up on my screen.
Well, it'll be wherever you saved it. So if you saved it into the same folder that we were working, you'll see it there. But if not, what folder did you save it to?
No, I'm
Yeah.
looking, you said you saved it into the Bridges folder.
No. I, Diana Musacchio, have to save it in a different place than you, Andrea. So I saved it to the same folder that I'm showing here in Bridge so that they would pop together so you could see the difference. So I personally, firstly chose Google Drive, My Drive download so that they could pop up here so I could show you the comparison. But if you're saving your class files that you're working on in another folder, you will have to go to that folder to see the new one. You'll have to go, okay, My Drive, and maybe I have them in the download summer files. And when I go to the download summer files or whatever, you might not. You know what I mean? I don't know where. So go find the folder that you saved this to, and there it'll be. I happen to have saved it in this one, right? So you go find wherever you did your export to, whatever folder you chose, that's where you'll see your exported file.
Diana, can you clear the concept about 60 quality, 64 quality?
Yeah,
and
so
6,000?
yeah. So can you can someone who has the slider share their screen for a second? Because mine doesn't have a slider, so I can't do that. Or let me open my own Photoshop.
I can share.
Okay, go ahead and share. Otherwise, I'm opening my personal Photoshop because in that one I'll have the slider. So do you have the sliders? Go ahead and share your
Yeah.
screen.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Let's
share your
see.
screen.
Just give me a minute. Wait.
Mhm. I mean, I'm happy to show it on mine if it's gonna be, if you're trying to set up your screen or something. Oh, there you go. Okay. All right, so go into Photoshop.
Can you see my Photoshop or I need to reshare it?
I'm showing your bridge.
Okay. I need to
Share both, because we're gonna need to go both. So just share your window, your desktop or something, and then you see both at the same time.
Not sure. Let me know if you see.
Okay.
Okay.
So now go to File, Export As.
Oh, sorry.
No, that
the
was
wrong
not
place.
Export As.
Uh,
Go back to Photoshop. You basically open the website, so go back to Photoshop. Yeah. Go to File, Export, Export As. Cool. So now over here on the right side. Oh, okay, so that's what they did on the new one. They used to, okay, so it's interesting how they changed the slider right now. Go to that slider, the one that says quality low and high. So go all the way to the far right. Oh, okay, 7. So that's interesting. They changed the concept of the slider. So for years, the slider went from 0 to 12, right? Go all the way to low. Does it go to 0? What is your lowest? It's 1. So it went from, maybe it went from 1 to 12 for years, for eons. I mean, like I'm talking for, 15 years. Then they changed the scale to go from 0 to 100%. So for the last, I'd say 10 years, the scale has gone from 0 to 100%. So when I said 60, I meant 60% or 50% or 70%. So I've been saying these numbers and no one's been telling me anything. So I'm so glad you caught on that, Mason. Now the scale, which is basically 7 stops, which I believe are the 7 stops they gave me, which were fair, very, let me see what they gave us before. The ones that I was calling out were, and let me go back also to my File, Export As. So they tried this and the choices were very poor, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So they're giving me 7 names, very poor, fair, good, very good, excellent. But what they're giving you is 7 stops. So in the end, can you put it at 5.5? Can you drag that and go between 5 to 5.5, or can you only go
No,
from 5 to
that's-
6? So
that's
basically
so-
it's the same thing.
Yeah.
They just gave it numbers. How interesting. It's the same thing, but instead of calling it the names they gave it, they just gave you a slider that only stops right there. Before, with the scale that was 0 to 100%, you could stop at 68 or 43. You know what I mean? But now they're basically saying you can only stop at 1 to 7, which is the same as calling it fair, better, quality, poor, high. So anyway, I guess people wanted numbers, they gave them numbers, but it's that same idea. You have to go between those 7. That said, it's pretty flexible. Before, the words they had were just, they had like 4 words. They had poor, good, and excellent. And so, yeah, there were so many stops in between. So now by giving you 7 stops, I guess they're basically saying these are the only 7 valid ones. All right, well, that's what that meant. Okay, so then anytime in all the history of the last 10 years of files, when I wrote 60 quality or 50 quality or 70 quality, in the future, I'm going to have to translate that to the scale. It would be easier if it were 1 to 10. Because now from 1 to 7, probably the midpoint wouldn't be 60. The midpoint would be now 4 or 5, right? So anyway, but in our brains, you're compressing it very low or very high, somewhere in between. So I liked to know that compression, because the same file can be with the same amount of pixels compressed at 2 or at 5, and your file size is going to be very different. But if I have both of them in my folder and I think these look identical, they're both 2000 pixels. What's the big difference? The compression, meaning the quality of that image has been affected. Does that make sense? So in the file name, in this case, I might put in your choice, I might choose 5Q for 5 quality, right?
Okay.
For me
got it.
to remember, because you're deciding that 5 is the right setting. So then the file name I would save as and add a little 5Q at this point.
But
Or
then your original say 6,000. The original.
yeah, but that's pixels. That's not
Oh.
compression. So this one here, you have compressed, you
Oh,
have
Q,
taken
okay.
2,500 pixels. So I would write
Mhm,
2,500 px, right?
mhm.
And then I would say dash 5Q.
Hmm.
Right? And you don't have to do the second one or the third one. You can just do the first one.
Okay, and
So
then
go ahead and
the-
get rid of the bottom one. Go and click on the trash layer,
Okay.
the second version. Yeah.
But then if
Click
you
on that
want
little trash.
to
Click on
if
that
you
little
want
trash
to
that you're pointing to.
say
Hold on.
to the same time,
Right now, let's just focus on one and see how you can change the name right now, because if you have two, the name and the jurisdiction is different. So go down to the bottom and say export, where you have 2,500 pixels and 5Q. You can't change the file name there, but now go find the right folder. Yeah. Find the right folder. Wherever the right folder will be. And then there, go in and write 2,500.
Mm.
In this case, you're saving the 2,500 version. And then after PX, I would put a dash 5Q. Now, that's just me, guys. You guys can choose your, I like to have my export files, my output files. I want to know what they are without having to open them each time. So that's what I do. So I'll find another one in Bridge that says 2,500, but 1Q, I'll go, oh, that's one that's really bad in quality. But it might work if I want to do a template and I'm trying to find it for some file size or whatever. But I might see the one that says 2,500, but it says 7Q, I guess now is the highest. And I'll go, ooh, that's the one that's the highest quality. Conversely, I will be able to tell then that that one is the biggest file versus the other one is the smallest file, right? So when you want to do a little tiny button, say click here. You know when I say a thumbnail on a website? When you have a little picture this big, and the little picture this big is just click here to see something else. Well, then fine, compress it down to 1, make it really tiny, because in that button, all you're going to see is a bunch of flowers. And so who cares if it's compressed so tiny? So maybe that file will end up being only like 10 kilobytes. And that's great for the website to have a little 10 kilobyte button. And then when you have it as a big hero image, which would be the main image of the page, then you have that one use up a whole, wow, crazy 500 megabytes of the website. Does that make sense? You got to budget your websites. So cool. So there you go. There you have all your different versions. And at the bottom of your bridge, you could see the one that was the 5Q. All right. Thank you. That was a great question. So now, you know, you resize to the right size without modifying the document pixels. When you don't care if your computer has to process the file forever, then just resize, print out your 4x6, then you resize, print out your 8x10, resize, print out your 20x13. When it matters, because you're inserting it into a brochure and you don't want this humongous, you have 10 photos in that brochure. You don't want to have them all completely messed up in size. Then you resample to 300 DPI, but you resize to 4x6, 2x3, 5x7, and those you export as individual files to import into your brochure, for example. And then when you're going to the web, you go to export as, and then you play around with the compression, where each photo will take, depending on their image, need more or less compression. As I said, if it's very detailed, you can compress it like crazy. If it's not very detailed, you got to be very gentle with your compression. And then you save that export with the information about, and you post it on the web and whatever. And if you never need it anymore and you ever need file space on your computer, you can get rid of all these export files, keep the master. If you're fine with computer space and you don't care storing stuff that'll never be used again, keep them all there, right? Or get rid of the 3 that you know you'll never use again, but keep the one that you might want to print another again for your daughter and another for your son, because it's photos of your last Christmas and you worked on it hard and you want everyone to have one on a frame on their desk. Okay, good. You keep it and you print it 3 times, you know what I mean? But that's the decisions you make for export. All right. So hopefully you'll practice, keep posting on the Padlet. You know, the Padlet at this point isn't going to change until the fall session. So if you have questions, I'll check it, because I get a notice when someone posts and I can check it. Now, if I'm on vacation or on holiday, I won't see it until I come back, and I'll be gone in August now for 3 weeks. But after that, I'll see it. And then when the class starts again, I will create a new Padlet and then if you're taking that class, you can post your new stuff. So if you have a question in between, you can email me or let me know, hey, I put something in Padlet, can you check it out? I'm happy to check it out and give you feedback. I'll write it in there and that kind of thing. Okay, so let's use that as a way to communicate if you have something happening.
I also want to let you know, they still haven't fixed the registration thing where you don't have to turn in
Oh my
a
God.
vaccine card, and the link that they have for turning in a vaccination card doesn't work. So I'm going to try and call them again today.
Can you please do that? And I'm going to send an email because that is stopping people from registering. That's horrible. So thank you so much for checking on that. Vaccination card for online class needs to be fixed. And the link,
the whole process could use some
ends it too.
overhaul.
You know what, Monica, I can't tell you, and I can't tell you how many meetings we've had, and I'm not exaggerating.
No, I'm sure you have.
For about the last 5 years since we went to this system, every single meeting we have, and I'm having another one tomorrow. I'm one of the leadership group. Every single meeting, we bring all of our complaints. They always go, we're doing our best. They keep changing little bits. It's getting better. It's getting a bit better. It's getting a bit better, but it's still a freaking disaster. It's impossible. Trust me, your guys' complaints do get moved through. But that doesn't mean they change, they fix one thing, they fix another thing. Now, this that Andrew's saying, a specific thing that's wrong with my class where it's making you sign in as if you were in person. So that's something that I'm going to complain I haven't fixed. But the process of registration is an absolute nightmare. We all are in complete agreement with it. And as teachers, it keeps so many people out. I mean,
Yes, it does.
other people from other co-teacher, people who use this, their credit teacher, their credit faculty, they want to sign up for one of our classes and they can't navigate the system. And these are people who know the system. All right. It's horrible. So don't get me, let's send it a fine note. Yes, I completely agree. I have zero sympathy for the process. They've promised us 3 years ago that they're not doing big changes because they're going to switch to a whole different system. So suddenly, because we're going to change, but we've never changed, we're stuck with something that is better than it used to be. Trust me, it's better than it was 2 years ago, but it's still horrible. Anyway, thank you, Saul.
And did I
You
hear
don't
that
see his
right?
message, but I want to say that he's saying, you're the best teacher I've ever had. Thank you. I want that one to be published.
Agree.
Everyone see that.
Did
I
I
was
hear that right, that you have to produce your vaccination card just to register?
Andrea found out that she tried to register to my class in the fall. Even though it's online, it's asking her for the vaccination card. And that's because originally it was set up for in person and they didn't do all the correct stuff they need to do behind it. And that might be happening to all my classes. And if it's happening to mine, it might be happening to other people's classes. So, but they don't try to register. They don't see it until someone complains. So I need to go warn them. Now, she totally told someone at the front office, I don't know what that information, where it landed, but now I'm going to take that information and move it forward, hoping it lands on the right people. But then even if it lands on that people, it might be on vacation for 2 weeks and registration is happening. So it's very frustrating. No, for online, you don't need vaccinations, but the system is set up that it's asking her for one. And worst is that when she clicks on to try to submit it, it doesn't even tell her to the right place because it's probably disabled because it's not supposed to be happening. So basically people can't sign up, literally can't sign up. So the number of people that are trying to sign up that are getting turned away, who I will never know that I'm not reaching. You guys are hearing it. My ex-students will hear it. But say that, John Smith decided to sign up, couldn't do it. They're not coming back. And it's horrible how much stuff people we lose because of this process.
I have a friend that's way smarter than me, and she can't take online classes. She can't figure out how to get registered for an in-class class or an online in the extended learning.
That said, you can always go to the front office.
That's what I
Or-
told her.
Or you can email
me.
me. No, if you email for help, and I send it in the email that I'm going to send you with how to sign up. One of the options is just fill out this paper that I attached to the file and forward it to the email called SCL admissions, and they will sign you up, right? So
there is a workaround for that person that you're saying. So it's just resisting doing it, right? You just
I've
need to
been-
fill out
I've
a
been
piece of
going-
paper and drop it off. So, but if you don't do that, then if you try to do it online, it's a mess. For the people who give up online, you can still do it in person or on paper. Right? So that's that you can still choose to do. But if you're
I've
not in
gone
Santa
into the
Barbara, maybe
office.
you're in Lompoc or in LA, then you have to send that PDF, filled out PDF as an attachment to your email. You need to know that much. And then they can sign you up. Okay, so those are the workarounds that we managed to get them to do. It's still not enough, but you can do it that way and then you can avoid all the mess. So the people who are trying to do it themselves, like Andrea, it does not let you unless you put up the vaccination. But when you try to do it just to comply, the link isn't working. So then they just are not able to sign up, which is ridiculous. So I'm gonna go write that email as soon as
Take a
class is
break, go
over.
eat.
What's that?
Take a break, go eat.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
blood
no, because
sugar
I'm gonna
just
forget
fell.
otherwise. And
I had to go get a couple bites of peanut butter. That's where I was.
yeah,
My blood sugar just dropped.
yeah. It's a long class going over.
Good class.
over
I
food
did
time.
something I'm gonna have to watch a few times, the end of it.
Yeah, the link will be up. So, and the links will be up until the fall class. So enjoy them or download the page to have them for as long as the files stay up, which I don't see any reason to bring them down. So the videos, I mean. So,
Thanks. See you in
okay,
an
bye
hour.
guys. I
or
hope to see you
20
all in
minutes.
one class or another. And if you can't take it, tell other people. We need people in the classes. All right.
My mouse.
Have a great summer, guys.
Thanks, you too.
Bye.
Where is my
Bye.
mouse?
You're welcome. Oh.
I lost my mouse.